I hit absolute rock bottom right there, in the middle of that third high school teacher's office in Sanjo. That June heat was suffocating. Right above me, an old ceiling fan groaned with every single heavy rotation. My homeroom teacher Wang Difa slid a printed document across the desk. He flat out told me I just could not cut it in Sanjo anymore. He wanted me to sign away my rights entirely. Only that morning I had finally awakened my talent. While other kids became heavy-hitting warriors, I was stuck as a life class professional. A basic gatherer with zero combat ability. To Wang Dafa, that meant I was totally useless for the upcoming national college exam. He wanted me to hand my martyr's family bonus points over to a student named Wang Xiang. Those 40 points were the exact difference between a totally average life and a spot at the prestigious Qingbei Martial Arts University. My chest tightened. 2 years ago, my father Lin Yuanshant and my sister Lin Qing vanished during a high-level dungeon run. The government declared them dead, honored as martyrs for the nation. Those 40 bonus points were the only thing I had left of them. They were the absolute last piece of comfort I held onto. Now they expected me to just hand them over. I looked right past the teacher. Wang Xing sat there, leaning back in his chair with his legs crossed. He watched me with these dead, arrogant eyes. His family was insanely rich and powerful in Sanjo. He had awakened as an A-grade magic warrior and acted like he owned the entire world. I shook my head and told them I refused. Wang Defa let his face twist into this mask of total fake disappointment. He called me entirely selfish. He claimed this was all about the school's collective honor. I took a deep breath, my hands balled into tight fists under the table. I demanded to know how he could even say that. We were talking about the blood of my father and sister. Why should some stranger get that? Wang Xiang let out a sharp, scoffing laugh. He stood up, tilted his head, and slowly walked right over to me. He said he was actually being nice by even asking. He offered me a low-level gathering job in his family business, scraping by on a few thousand a month. Then his voice dropped, turning ice cold. He swore that if I did not sign, he would make sure I never found work again. He promised to ruin my sales and make me a pariah in Sanjo. Not a threat. He was stating a simple fact. My vision totally blurred with pure rage. I was already at rock bottom with a bleak future. And here stood the star student, the kid who already had absolutely everything, trying to strip away my final shred of dignity. Wang Xiang pulled a bank card from his pocket and slapped it hard onto the desk. He told me to stop acting out and just take the 30,000 yuan. He called it enough for a bottom feeder like me to survive on for 2 whole years. Wang Defa chimed in, claiming Wang Xiang would become a top-tier warrior and protect our nation. He actually claimed my father and sister would be proud of me for giving up those points. Proud. My family bled out on the front lines, while garbage people like this stayed safely behind to hoard power and cash. Now they were cornering a martyr's son for his own inheritance. I looked Wang Defa dead in the eye and asked if he even deserved the title of teacher. His face went totally stiff. A quick flash of anger crossed his eyes before he settled right back into that fake, calm tone. He claimed he was merely thinking about my future. I told him I would only say this one last time, keeping my voice steady but sharp. My father and sister gave their lives for this. No matter how much cash he offered, I would never sign that paper. Wang Xiang finally snapped. He completely lost his cool and cursed at me, calling me dead meat. But I did not stay to listen. I just stood up, walked straight to the door, and told them both they were never getting those points. I said I would be waiting for whatever move they tried next. I walked out of the school gates with my mind absolutely racing. This whole world felt incredibly unfair. Was I honestly destined to be crushed underfoot just because I rolled a life-class profession? Suddenly, a freezing electronic voice exploded inside my head. System fully initialized. You have awakened the Supreme Infinite Collection System. Collection skill upgraded to Infinite Collection. You can now totally plunder the source attributes and talents of all living things. My heart skipped a beat. A standard gatherer just picked up basic plants and rocks. But this was plundering the very source itself. I opened my status panel. Class Gatherer, Level 1. Attributes show Strength 5, Agility 5, Spirit 5, Physique 5, and Talent Infinite Collection. I stopped right by the side of the road. A patch of foxtail weeds grew there, totally stubborn and trampled by random passersby. I reached out and touched a single weed. A faint white light flashed. Collection entirely successful. You have gathered 1 foxtail weed. Perfect collection triggered. You have successfully plundered a trace of life's source. Physique attribute permanently increased by 1. I completely froze. A sudden surge of warmth flooded my body. It was this strange, incredibly powerful energy that made my skin tingle all over. I could actually feel myself getting stronger. I looked down at the weed. The vibrant green leaf had turned totally gray and brittle, quickly crumbling into dust in the passing wind. I took a sharp breath. This wasn't just some basic gathering skill. This was absolute total theft. and from one simple roadside weed, I had just gained permanent power. The second I walked out, Wang Sheng's face turned a bruised, ugly purple. He was absolutely livid. He snapped at his uncle Wang Defa, said they shouldn't have even bothered negotiating with me. They should have just forged the name on the records. But Wang Defa just shook his head. He pointed out the principal would never allow that without my actual signature. Then came this cold, nasty smile. He told Wang Xiang not to worry at all as my class teacher. He controlled my final graduation evaluation. One failing grade from him, and I wouldn't even scrape my way into the absolute bottom-tier vocational school. Wang Xiang let out a chilling laugh. He couldn't care less about the school, he just wanted that sweet bonus point for his own university application. He glared out toward the school gates, looking downright murderous. He wanted to see if I actually had the guts to show up at the beginner dungeon tomorrow. Skipping it proved I was just another useless gatherer, and the principal would drop his protection in a heartbeat. And if I did show up, his voice dropped to a sinister whisper. He swore I'd walk in, but I definitely wouldn't be walking out. Meanwhile, I was standing by the empty roadside. Heavy gray sky pressing down. Withered grass surrounded me, a patch I had just finished harvesting. I was not thinking about those two backstabbers at all. I was way too busy staring at my status panel in total shock. My physique had jumped from 5 to 6. One weed gave me a permanent attribute point. Unbelievable. My hands actually started to shake. Out here in this world, attributes were literally everything. Every single time a professional leveled up, they only got 5 measly points to distribute. We lived in an era of monster invasions and spiritual recovery. Everything held a tiny bit of essence. But these common weeds were never supposed to be special. They sure weren't the rare spirit herbs found inside dangerous dungeons. A common foxtail weed handing me a point of life source was completely staggering. I tried it again on another weed. Then came a flash of light. The plant withered into dust, and another surge of warmth flooded my limbs. Physique +1. I kept right on going, ripping through plant after plant. The lusher the plant, the more energy I drained. This wasn't just some glowing number on a screen. I could physically feel my body transforming. My heartbeat turned incredibly steady and powerful. My breathing grew deep. By the 5th collection, a heavy wave of dizziness hit me. My spirit attribute was only 5, which meant my absolute maximum was 50 energy points. Each infinite collection burned through 10 points. I was totally tapped out. A normal mage would have to meditate for 10 hours or buy insanely expensive potions. Suddenly, a system prompt popped up: energy exhausted. Spend money to recover. 1 yuan equals 1 spirit point. I didn't hesitate for a second. I thought yes, and 50 yuan vanished from my pocket. Instantly, my energy bar refilled straight to 50. No waiting, no boring meditation, just pay and play. It was a perfectly broken loop. I checked my stats again. My physique hit 9. It had nearly doubled in a matter of minutes. I remembered this kid at school, a C-class shield warrior famous for his defense. He started with a baseline physique of 8. I had already blown right past him. I balled my fists, feeling that raw, new toughness in my skin. With the weeds gone, I turned my attention to a patch of mimosa plants right nearby. I triggered the skill again. This time, instead of warmth, a rush of cool energy hit my forehead. My mind cleared instantly. Spirit +1, exactly what I needed. Different plants gave different attributes based on their actual nature. Foxtail weeds were hardy, granting physique. Mimosas were highly sensitive, so they boosted spirit. I drained my energy, spent another 100 yuan to refill and expand my capacity. Then checked the panel. Strength 5, Agility 5, Spirit 10, Physique 9. A spirit of 10 was the exact starting point for the city's top genius, Lin Shuyao, an S-class lightning mage. I reached her level just by ripping up weeds on the side of the road. Thinking about the Lin family sent a cold shiver down my spine. One day, I would be paying them a very personal visit. I needed strength and agility next. Walking a bit further down, I noticed this faint white glow near the roots of some old trees. A whole trail of black mountain ants. Thick, sturdy insects, probably mutated from chewing on spirit minerals. I knelt down and crushed one, activating the skill. Strength +1. A massive jolt of power shot from my fingered shoulders, then down to my legs. My muscles twitched violently. I kept going. 1 ant, 2 ants. On the 3rd ant, a golden notification flashed. Critical hit triggered. Deep source completely plundered. Gained F-class talent strength enhancement. My pupils contracted. I was a simple life class professional, but I had just unlocked a pure combat talent. This meant I was entirely breaking the rules of the world. Wang Defa and Wang Xiang bullied me because they were so sure I couldn't fight. They thought I was just some waste of space who would fail the college entrance exam. I gripped my fist so hard the knuckles popped. My vision sharpened. Every last one of them thought I was destined to stay weak. I was going to show them I could be stronger than anyone. I moved right to the 4th ant. Another flash. Critical hit. You gained an F-class talent strength enhancement. Two identical talents, commencing synthesis. I unlocked a level 1 talent called Strength Overload. It skyrocketed my physical attack effectiveness to 200%. I stood there, breathless. In this world, your talent is locked second you awaken SSS down to F-class. It dictates your stats, your growth rate, your absolute ceiling. Most people call it a permanent life sentence, but me? I had just completely broken the system. A standard level 1 warrior starts out with exactly 7 points of strength. I already had 9. My health and spirit stats sat even higher, and I was only getting started. I glanced down at the black mountain ants swarming through the grass, just mutated pests to anyone else. But I singled out the largest one in the dirt, the queen ant, crushed her flat under my thumb and triggered endless collection. A system alert flashed. I just plundered a tier 2 skill power gathering strike. It lets me condense my body's entire strength into one single point, dealing 4 times the physical damage. The technique flooded my brain, instantly feeling as natural as breathing. I needed to see my actual limits. Half buried in the dirt sat a sharp rock, about the size of a football. I took a deep breath, lowered my stance. Power gathering strike. A strange, searing heat ripped through my chest and surged down my right arm. It pooled at my knuckles, compressing like a tightly wound spring. I threw the punch with a low growl, deafening impact. The rock didn't just crack. It completely shattered into 5 jagged pieces, sending shrapnel flying into the mud. I stared at my fist, then at the debris. I was a collector, a supposedly weak life-class professional, and yet I had just pulverized solid stone. A surge of raw power completely washed over me. Bitterness and hope hit me all at once. My father and my sister were missing, lost in some unknown secret realm. Everyone insisted they were dead. But, staring at my own 2 hands, I finally realized something: I might actually get strong enough to find them. I turned right back to the ants, hungry for more. But the system stopped me. I had officially hit the collection limit for that specific species. All I got was some totally useless formic acid. Still, I didn't let it bring me down. If the black mountain ants were exhausted, I just needed another target. The world was practically crawling with life. I spent the next hour scouring the dirt by the road. I dug up 4 new plants: purslane, mugwort, plantain, and goosegrass. Each one handed me something completely brand new. By the time I was finally done, I had added 10 points to my spirit and 10 to my constitution. But then I hit a wall. My remaining 600 yuan was completely gone. Every single collection cost money for materials, and I was officially broke. Years of scraping by, working part-time while studying, only to have my path to power blocked by an empty wallet. I pulled up my status panel to check my overall progress. Level 1. Stats read Strength 10, Agility 4, Spirit 20, and Constitution 20. Total attribute count sat at 55. Even the most elite geniuses in my class wouldn't crack 25 points at this stage. I was already twice as strong as the absolute best of them. The sheer potential was staggering, but I desperately needed cash to keep this momentum going. I looked over the items I managed to harvest. Aside from the stat bumps, I had 10 bottles. Perfect plant essence, glowing green, incredibly pure, smelling like fresh forest air. They weren't high-level potions, but their flawless purity made them the ultimate base for high-end medicine. I knew exactly where to go. Straight into the city's old district. Dim streetlights cast long shadows over the peeling paint of a little shop, Old Wu's Herb Processing. That familiar smell of dried roots and bitter herbs hit me instantly. I worked here for 3 years after my family vanished. Old Wu was the only reason I hadn't starved to death. I found him crouching on the dusty floor, sorting through a pile of dried leaves. He looked up and offered a warm smile. Asked how my awakening went, his eyes absolutely full of hope. I stayed quiet for a second. Then I just told him the truth: an F-class collector. Old Wu froze. I immediately saw the pity in his eyes. Trying his best to cheer me up, he said there was no shame in honest work, and I'd always have a spot right here in the shop. Instead of correcting him, I just pulled those 10 glowing bottles of green liquid right from my storage and lined them up on his counter. Gathered these off the roadside, I told him. Just seeing if they hold any value. Letting out a heavy sigh, he probably assumed I was bringing him pure trash. He slowly picked up one bottle and twisted off the cap. The exact second the seal broke, a concentrated aroma of life energy flooded the cramped room. Old Wu's eyes widened. His hands actually shook as he stared at the liquid. He looked up, voice trembling. He asked where on earth I managed to find something of this quality. I just looked at him. How much? Old Wu took a long, deep breath, eyes still glued to the glass. He said the quality was incredible, but since they came from common plants, the base energy was just too weak. They were only good as cheap filler for low-tier potions. I nodded, made sense. Old Wu rubbed his chin, then held up a single finger. 10,000 yuan for the entire batch. My pulse spiked. That was way more than I saw coming. Listen, kid, Old Wu said, clapping my shoulder. I won't let you walk away with a raw deal." He vanished into the back room, returning seconds later with a fat envelope. He handed it over, told me to double-check the cash. I didn't bother. Just shoved the 10,000 yuan straight into my pocket. We chatted a bit more before I took off. As I stepped out, I heard old Wu mumbling under his breath, stunned that an F-class collector squeezed that much purity out of ditch weeds. He wondered out loud what I could do with actual spirit herbs. Walking home, I pulled out my phone. The class group chat was blowing up, everyone freaking out over talent attributes. Somebody dropped the news that Wang Xiang hit a strength score of 8, rocking a total attribute count of 27. The chat lost its collective mind, calling the guy a total monster. Then the hype pivoted to Sanzhou City's reigning genius, Lin Shu-yao from First High. She just awakened an S-class lightning affinity. I watched the messages blur past the screen, feeling a slow smirk creep onto my face. They were losing it over those pathetic stats. If they found out my total stats had already cracked 55, they would drop dead. But I kept my screen locked and my mouth shut. Flying under the radar was my only play until I could hold my own. I went to swipe the app away, then a massive alert pinged. Mandatory assembly for all Awakens student school playground, 8 a.m. tomorrow. We were shipping out to the Mist Plains, a rookie trial dungeon. The fine print strongly advised lifestyle classes to stay far away. Not recommended wasn't the same as strictly forbidden. That beginner zone was crawling with spirit herbs and beasts. High risk, sure. But the payout dwarfed the literal dirt and ants I usually scavenged off the street. Flush with cash, I swung by a supply shop and stocked up on empty vials for tomorrow's haul. Later on, I sat alone in my cramped, quiet house. A single faded photograph of 3 people rested on the table. A grizzled man and a young woman, strapped up in tactical armor, flanked a skinny, younger version of me. My father, Lu Yuansh, and my older sister, Lu Qing. I dragged my thumb across the cracked glass over their faces. "Dad, sis," I mumbled in the dark. "I refuse to believe you were dead. Just wait." I shoved the picture in a drawer and crashed hard. I was completely ready for the Mist Plains. The government ran that combat zone specifically to forge fresh awakeners into actual blooded warriors. I rolled up to campus at dawn. When Wang Difa spotted me lining up, his face flushed purple with absolute fury. It hit him I was never giving up those extra points. Wang Xiang caught sight of me too, staring daggers with pitch-black malice. Armored convoys hauled us to the city limits. The massive plaza guarding the dungeon gate was already swarming with kids from every local high school. Our balding, 50-something principal stepped up to address the nervous crowd. He laid out the rules, a brutal 3-day survival test. Everyone got a panic button teleport bracelet just in case. Wang Xiang anchored the front of our squad, decked out in dark gold armor with a massive greatsword slung over his back. The guy looked like a straight-up comic book hero, soaking in the jealous stares. Glancing around, it hit me. I was the absolute only lifestyle student crazy enough to show up. Wang Xiang swaggered over, literally looking down his nose at me. He demanded to know what a garbage class was doing on his battlefield. He pitched me one final chance to surrender my bonus points. But before I even opened my mouth, his 2 lapdogs started yapping. Li Chong, some distant cousin clinging to the Wang family name, bragged loudly that Wang Xiang could smear me into the pavement with a pinky. Then Xiao Hong, a kid whose parents supplied the Wangs, decided to perform for the peanut gallery. He broadcasted my name to the crowd, ruthlessly mocking me as a useless collector with 0 combat skills. The nearby kids instantly started snickering, whispering that I was just a parasite trying to leech free experience off an actual combat squad. They laughed in my face, claiming nobody would ever party up with a literal garbage collector. Even the watching teachers just shook their heads. To them, the power gap between Wang Xiang and me was like comparing a god to an insect. The principal frowned, yet he kept his mouth firmly shut. Wang Xiang was the golden boy. I was just a blue-collar nobody who couldn't offer the academy an ounce of real glory. I kept my breathing steady. Only cornered dogs barked that loud. If they actually laid a hand on me out here, I'd break them in half. One by one, the schools filtered inside. Pushing toward the swirling vortex of the portal, Wang Xiang's icy tone sliced into my ear. He reminded me there were 0 teachers across that threshold. The second I walked off alone, he was going to bury me. I plunged into the portal, boots hitting wet dirt in a fog-choked forest. The air tasted like rotting leaves and old blood. Before I could even slip away into the trees, the crowd behind me erupted into absolute chaos. Lin Shu-yao had arrived. Guys were screaming about the goddess Lin Shu-yao. I glanced before girls materialized on the dirt. All striking, but the one leading the pack was unreal. She wore a moon-white mage robe that hugged her curves flawlessly. Tiny, long-legged, and pale, almost translucent skin. This was the daughter of war god Lin Xuan, the absolute strongest S-class lightning mage in the entire city. Guys were screaming, practically begging for her attention. But Lin Shu-yao gave 0 reaction. Her face was pure ice. Those distant eyes just frowned at the absolute chaos. She looked like she belonged to a completely different world. I just watched it all unfold, shook my head, and headed left. I just wanted to escape the loud crowd. Lu Hao? A soft voice called out from behind. I turned around and saw Lin Shuyao. Somehow she had managed to shake off that massive crowd of admirers following her everywhere. Her voice was gentle now, completely different from that icy persona she showed everyone else. "What is it?" I asked her. "Am I not allowed to be here?" Unlike those guys who spent all day worshipping her, my tone was ice cold. Lin Shuyao paused for a second. "I heard about the situation with Wang Shang," she said. "The Wang family has serious influence and you are totally alone." She hesitated, then kept going. "If you want, I can ask my dad to step in. The Wang family would never dare cross him." A bitter smirk tugged at the corner of my mouth. "Lin Xuan." I let out a sharp, mocking laugh and told her to forget it. "I have absolutely nothing to do with your family." Lin Shuyao gasped softly. "I did not mean anything by it," she sighed. "I just hate seeing you get hurt." I stared back at her with total indifference. 2 years ago, we were actually close friends. Her dad and my dad, Lu Yuansha, were brothers in arms. They would have died for each other. Our families were basically one. But after one specific dungeon mission, everything broke apart. My dad and my brother, Luing, both died inside. Lin Xuan was the only one who made it out alive. I went to his house so many times, practically begging for the truth. He refused to say a single word. Gave me zero explanation. Since then, I cut all ties with the Lin family completely. "Get hurt," I repeated coldly. "Wang Shang is not capable of hurting me." I turned my back and just walked away. She looked like she wanted to chase me, but she stopped herself. She stood there for a long time, finally shaking her head with a sigh. "Still just as stubborn as ever. I have never seen you speak so kindly to a guy before." A girl with a dagger at her waist and an agile build walked right up. This was Zhao Shi, an assassin. She glared my way with pure disdain. I already checked him out. A lifestyle worker really should not even be here. Look at him all by himself. Not a single person wants to team up with him. "Do not be like that, Zhao Shi." A girl named Xiao scolded gently, biting her lip. She was a priest, watching my retreating figure with total pity. "He looks so lonely," she said. The assassin laughed. "Pity?" Lin Shuyao tried helping him. And did he even appreciate it? People with lifestyle classes should honestly just stay in school. "Shuyao, you two are from entirely different worlds. It is fine to be kind sometimes, but do not take him seriously." Lin Shuyao frowned as she listened, but did not argue back. She knew they were technically right. Yet she just could not stop staring at my back. A third girl, Swan, had not said a single word. She was a tall archer with sharp eyes and a massive bow. Being an archer, she had a skill called Eagle Eye, letting her see things others completely missed. "This lifestyle worker is strange." Swan whispered this to herself. Lin Shuyao asked her what was wrong. Swan just shook her head and looked away. Nothing. But internally, her suspicion only grew. Something was very wrong. How was the blood aura on that guy so incredibly strong? That is definitely not how a lifestyle worker should feel. Meanwhile, I waited about half an hour until the other teams vanished into the thick forest fog. Then I started moving. After 10 minutes, the sound of a violent struggle echoed ahead. I crept closer. 3 massive brownish-gray rabbits were fighting a 5-student team. These rabbits were easily the size of small dogs. Their powerful legs let them leap 3 or 4 meters into the air at a time. With blood-red eyes, they attacked by viciously biting and ramming their targets. These were Redwood Rabbits Level 1 monsters. The student team really struggled, but they eventually killed all 3. Left panting, totally covered in sweat. "Damn, these things are fast." One of them cursed out loud. "We could barely hit them. Good thing their attack power is low, or we would be dead." They patched up their wounds and left. Did not even bother checking the rabbit carcasses. To them, the bodies were trash. To me, pure gold mine. I stepped out from behind a tree and walked right up to the bloody remains. I placed my hand on a rabbit and whispered limitless extraction. A bright white light flashed. "Success. You have obtained redwood rabbit bone and skin 1 set. You have extracted a small amount of agility essence. Agility +2. A cool light energy surged right through my body. My muscles suddenly felt fluid and weightless. Agility was my absolute weakest stat, and now I had finally found a way to fix it. I did not rush to kill monsters myself. Thousands of students were already ahead of me, doing the work. Plus, I didn't want to show my hand just yet. I extracted the other 2 rabbits. My agility shot from 5 to 11, more than doubling in seconds. I crouched, pushed off, and felt lighter than air. I wasn't moving like a normal guy anymore. I tracked the sounds of combat deeper into the woods. 50 meters out, I found another bloodbath with 3 rabbit corpses. Endless extraction. I just scored an F-grade agility talent. Flexibility. I had broken my class limits all over again. I was officially an agility-based fighter. Those builds are straight up elite. Massive crit rates, crazy dodge chances, and lightning speed. By the sixth rabbit, the system warned me I had hit the extraction cap for that species. But hey, I still grabbed a high-quality pelt to sell later. Soon after, I pushed into the level 2 zone. This place belonged to green wolves, long-limbed predators that moved like gray shadows. They were incredibly tough to kill. Whole squads were burning serious time just to bring one down. I drifted like a ghost between fights. The second a team bagged a kill and left, I stepped in. Success. You have obtained a green wolf pelt. You have extracted agility essence agility +2. After milking 5 wolves, I didn't pull a new talent, but I scored something way better. You have obtained a tier 1 skill. Haste boosts movement speed by 300% for 5 seconds. I triggered it right then and there. My legs lost all weight, launching me forward like an arrow off a string. Wind roared in my ears. When those 5 seconds ended, I was already 300 meters downrange. That kind of speed was a massive edge. Finally, I hit the level 3 zone. The difficulty took another steep climb. Up above, I spotted golden bronze falcons circling. They rocked 2-meter wingspans, with sharp golden feathers ringing their eyes. Their aerial mobility made their strikes nearly impossible to predict. For most players, the level 3 zone was an absolute bloodbath, while other teams were screaming in pain, just barely surviving against the golden bronze falcons. I was having the easiest run of my life. I just waited them out. The second a heavy-hitting squad dropped a metallic bird and left, I made my move. Pressing a hand against the fresh carcass, a warm golden orb bloomed right in my palm. Success. You have obtained a golden bronze falcon eye. You have extracted agility essence agility +2. I swept 5 separate battlefields to complete my set. Along with the eyes and stat buffs, the system chimed once more. I just unlocked a new skill vision enhancement. It was a tier 1 ability that sharpened my sight to a terrifying level. Suddenly, the entire world snapped into hyperfocus. I could trace the tiny veins on leaves, spot insect holes carved into tree trunks, and even track a single beetle 50 meters out in the grass. The dense fog couldn't blind me anymore. This ability changed absolutely everything. My agility hit 35 points now. While everyone else was bleeding and sweating to scrape by, I didn't even have to draw my sword. I just shadowed them and swept up the leftovers. Each extraction only cost me 10 energy points. This was honestly the life. I figured I'd hoard as many eyes as I could carry. They would sell for a fortune back in the city. Eventually, I stumbled onto a massive crater with 8 or 9 falcon corpses scattered around. Looked like a multi-team brawl went down here. The mud was soaked in both monster and human blood, and I even spotted some shattered armor pieces. An absolute goldmine. But the second I finished harvesting, heavy footsteps crunched behind me. I spun around to find Wang Shang and his crew. The guy glared at me with pure, unfiltered hatred. His lackey Xiao Hong started mocking me for being dumb enough to wander into a high-level zone alone. Li Chong, another goon, wore a twisted little smile. He muttered something about how incredibly easy it would be to just bury me out here, isolated. He drew a bow, waiting for the kill order. Wang Xiang opened his mouth, but then more footsteps echoed from the tree line. It was Lin Shuyao. She brought her usual squad, but they had picked up a tall guy lugging a massive shield. She spotted the standoff and instantly stepped between me and Wang Xiang's bow. Raw lightning crackled over her hands. She told Wang Xiang that if he even touched me, he'd deeply regret it. The guy's face completely froze. He despised me, sure, but he wasn't nearly stupid enough to brawl with the daughter of the war god. Lin Shone. He let out a low growl, ordered his guys back, and faded into the mist. Honestly, I felt slightly disappointed. I was kind of hoping he'd try something so I could test my new tsit. Once they cleared out, Shuyao turned around. She warned me it was suicide out here alone and offered to let me tag along. The new guy, Lang, instantly threw a fit. I knew exactly who he was, the son of the Sanzhou city lord. Just an arrogant elitist totally obsessed with Shuyao. He mocked me, asking if a trash tier gatherer actually thought he belonged with a high-level squad. Shuyao wasn't having it. She bluntly told him he could walk if he didn't like her call. He shut up fast, but the glare he shot me was pure poison. Swan the archer was the only one who kept quiet. She just watched me with narrowed eyes. She saw me at the entrance and could immediately tell something was off. My aura was significantly heavier than it was just a few hours ago. A gatherer growing this fast without fighting a single battle? It shouldn't be possible. She kept those suspicions to herself, but I felt her lingering stare anyway. Honestly, I didn't care what any of them thought. Looking right at Shuyao and her squad, I gave them a hard pass. I told them I wasn't interested in tagging along and just walked away. Didn't even look back. Liang looked completely relieved. But Shuyao just stood there, fists tightly clenched under her robes. Eventually, she turned back to her party. She ordered them to push toward the level 4 zone to hunt some fire sac moths. While they walked, Liang tried prying into our shared history. Shuyao shut him down in a heartbeat. She was definitely thinking about the past, how our families were so close. Right up until that one mission where my father and brother died. and only her dad came back alive. She knew I blamed her father for abandoning them. Suddenly, a bright red glow sliced right through the mist. A fire sac moth had appeared. Before anyone could even react, a massive fireball slammed against Li Yang's shield. The sheer impact sent him staggering backward, coughing up blood. He screamed that his shield couldn't take more than 3 hits like that. Shu Yao realized the moth's range was 50 meters, way too far for her lightning strikes. She started barking orders, yelling for Swan to lay down cover fire while Jiaoxi closed the gap. This raid was going south fast. They were in way over their heads. Behind them, the party's priest scrambled to cast a healing spell. Her hands glowed as she desperately struggled to keep the vanguard alive. After a brutal exchange, Jiaoxi finally spotted an opening. The assassin dashed in and cleanly cut down the level 4 beast. The entire team stood there panting, just staring at the massive moth carcass on the dirt. These things were absolute long-range nightmares. Those fireballs hit like freight trains. Li Yang's face was deathly pale. He muttered that if the assassin hadn't closed in fast, he would be totally dead. Shu Yao looked incredibly grim. She reminded Li Yang that as their tank, retreating wasn't an option. If he backed off now, the squishy casters behind him would be slaughtered. The shield-bearer nodded slowly, but his heart just wasn't in it anymore. Secretly, he wished I was still around. He figured it would be much easier to have me standing in front, eating all that damage like a living meat shield. Meanwhile, I had already crossed into the level 4 hunting zone. Sporadic sounds of combat echoed in the distance. They were moving way too slowly for my taste. Waiting around for them to leave scraps behind just wasn't a viable strategy anymore. I just shook my head. I needed to do this myself. Luckily, my last harvesting run had finally pushed me to a brand new level. My agility stat had absolutely skyrocketed. I finally had the numbers to fight completely solo. I peered deep into the thick rolling mist. 100 meters away, perched on a dead tree, sat a weirdly oversized moth. I just smiled and walked right straight toward the thing. Pulled up my status screen. Name Lua, level 10 out of 1,000. Strength 11, passive power strike. Agility 35, rank F. Haste, spirit and constitution 20. Talent, endless extraction. I definitely wasn't some weak lifestyle worker anymore. I was becoming a perfectly balanced, all-around fighter. The second I stepped within 50 meters, the fire sac moth jerked onto high alert. It reared up, that abdominal sac glowing bright orange. Then it opened its jaws and spat a fist-sized fireball right at my face. It moved fast, trailing thick orange flames. But with my enhanced vision, the incoming trajectory was crystal clear. I simply tilted my body a single inch. The fireball whistled right past my shoulder and slammed hard into a dead tree behind me. The explosion carved a scorched crater into the trunk, sending wood chips flying everywhere. I blinked. That raw power was way more terrifying than I expected, but I didn't give the bug time to prep a second shot. I instantly triggered haste. The dirt beneath my boots actually cracked as I surged forward. Packing 35 agility and a 200% speed boost, I tore through that thick mist like a low-flying arrow. The moth's giant compound eyes flickered in panic. It clearly never expected any target to move this incredibly fast. It beat its wings frantically, desperately trying to take flight. But it needed a second to build lift, and that single second became its death warrant. I wound up my right fist, feeling a heavy, hot current of energy rushing from my chest straight down to my knuckles. Power strike for 4 times the raw strength. I buried my knuckles deep into its unprotected belly. The glowing sac ruptured. Disgusting fluorescent fluid sprayed everywhere as the heavy impact drove the moth deep into the tree trunk. Its wings gave 2 pathetic final twitches, then went completely still. A faint ethereal glow rose from the mangled corpse and sank right into my chest. I had successfully soloed a level 4 fire sac moth. I gained 40 experience points. A warm feeling hit me, my bar now read 40 out of 1,000. I slowly pulled my fist back, a clean one-hit kill. These glass cannons were pretty easy if you could just get close. I knelt in the dirt and pressed my palm against the ruined carcass. Endless extraction. A bright flash of light followed. I obtained 1 fire sac plus 2 points of spirit. Then a new system notification popped up. I had just gained a rank F elemental talent, Fire Element Perception. My pupils shrank. This meant I could actually learn fire spells. I took a deep breath, burying the excitement. The ceiling for this extraction system was way higher than I figured. I scanned the area. Through the thick mist, I spotted 2 more orange glows clinging to a single tree. Taking both at once was definitely riskier, but I never hesitated. I crept toward their flank. Once I hit the 50-meter mark, they both sensed me, but it was way too late. I blurred forward. 2 fireballs grazed my back as I dodged. I smashed my fist into the moth on the left, shattering it instantly. Before my momentum died, I kicked off a branch and launched myself straight at the second one. Another punch. Another kill. The whole exchange was over in a blink. I reached out to extract from both. The first gave me another fire sack and 2 spirit points. But that second one made white light explode across my vision. 2 spirit points and a brand new skill fireball. It was a rank 1 spell, packing 50 base damage plus my spirit modifier. It cost 10 energy with a 2-second cooldown. My heart hammered. Was it as strong as the ones those moths threw? I held out my left hand. Tiny red sparks started gathering right in my palm, pulled from the air like they were answering a call. They swirled and condensed into a fist-sized ball of rolling flame, giving off intense heat. I just flicked my wrist. The fireball roared out, blasting a tree 10 meters away. The trunk exploded. I nodded. My high spirit stat made this version way stronger than the moth's attacks. Even better, that 2-second cooldown was basically nothing. Other mages would be terrified to spam a spell like this. 10 energy per shot meant they would run totally dry after 10 fireballs. I was different. If I ran empty, I could just buy more. $1 per energy point. I had over 9,000 bucks on me. That meant 900 fireballs. I could turn a level 4 zone into an absolute wasteland. Forget being a simple warrior. I was a mobile artillery unit packing infinite mana. I kept walking and spotted another moth. This time I didn't rush in. I just raised my hand, summoned a fireball, and let it fly. The moth was vaporized before it even saw me. Almost too easy. I walked over to the remains and activated extraction again. The 5th fire sack goose I harvested dropped something totally unexpected, a grade F talent called Fire Element Perception. I didn't hesitate. I hit the synthesize button immediately. Golden light flashed and the system alert popped up. I had scored a grade 1 talent Fire Element Affinity. It boosted my fire skill damage by 1% and increased my mana gathering speed. It didn't sound like much, but with my spirit stat hitting 30 points, those fireballs were becoming terrifying. I felt heat radiating from my skin. I was a walking furnace. Pushing deeper into the woods, I spotted another goose. I raised my hand, then slowly lowered it. A fireball cost 10 energy points, and in this world, 1 point equaled $1. I was literally throwing money away with every single shot. I needed that cash for extractions. Unless things got truly dangerous, I decided to stick to using my fists. My heavy strike was still incredibly reliable, and with every fight, my movements were getting smoother. I was finally learning how to kill efficiently. After dropping about 20 more geese, a pillar of bright white light suddenly washed over me. I hit level 2. Got 5 attribute points, but I held off on spending them. I just didn't need to yet. What really hyped me up was my storage space. It doubled from 10 slots to 20. Out here, your level was everything. It dictated every skill you learned and every piece of gear you wore. Pushing deeper for 30 minutes, I carved a path through the forest, dropping 50 more geese. Another flash of light. Level 3. My storage expanded again, giving me 5 more points in reserve. Then I froze. The hair on the back of my neck just stood up. A massive tree sat dead ahead, the trunk thick enough for 3 men to link arms around. Perched on a branch was a monster 3 times the size of the others. Its wings were a dark orange, covered in pulsating red veins that looked exactly like squirming blood vessels. An elite fire sack goose. And it definitely wasn't alone. A dozen regular geese surrounded it like some kind of royal guard. I had walked straight into their nest. I held my breath and tried stepping backward, but the elite's secondary eyes instantly snapped right toward me. It shrieked. In an instant, 12 fireballs began forming right in the beaks of the guards. Fine. If hiding was out, I would fight. I bolted sideways just as the first wave hit. The ground where I stood erupted, blasting a crater half a meter deep. Dirt and scorched grass sprayed through the air. I closed the distance, narrowing the gap to 30 meters. Then the elite finally moved. It spat a fireball double the normal size. Moving like a cannonball, it flew twice as fast as the guards' projectiles. I dove, rolling hard through the dirt. A massive explosion rocked the forest right behind me. Shrapnel and sparks rained down, burning tiny holes straight through my clothes. This was no normal spell. It was a bomb. I couldn't just stay on the defensive. I triggered haste and lunged forward like a bullet. My left hand flared up. I blasted a fireball point blank into the first guard, vaporizing it on the spot. Before the rest could even blink, I was already right beside the second. I threw a punch, channeling every last ounce of strength into one heavy strike. The giant goose just exploded under the impact. The elite screamed in pure rage. It finally realized I wasn't just prey. It shrieked out a command, and the remaining guards unleashed a massive hail of fire from every single direction. Any other rookie would have been charred to a crisp. But my agility was simply way too high. I blurred through the trees, practically dancing between the flames. Started spamming fireballs everywhere. My energy tank hit absolute 0, but I really didn't care. I just pumped cash into my system to instantly refill my mana. Out here in this forest, I was the only guy who could afford to fight like this. Under a minute later, those guards were nothing but smoking corpses. The elite kept launching its heavy shells, but I was way too fast. I closed the gap, fired a fireball to stun it, and followed through with a crushing right hook. It let out one final pathetic chirp and crashed completely to the dirt. I stood over the dead body, breathing hard. I had already hit the extraction limit for the normal geese. But this was an elite. I pressed my bare hand against its cooling feathers. The extraction worked perfectly. I gained 3 spirit points and a brand new skill burst fireball. A rank 2 spell. It dealt massive area damage in a 10-meter radius. A system alert popped up. It had automatically replaced my basic fireball skill. I had to grin. Even a total genius like Lin Shuyao wouldn't be able to learn a rank 2 skill until she hit level 10. I was only level 3, and I already held one of the most powerful area of effect spells in the entire game. I spent the next solid hour testing it out. The farming efficiency was totally insane. By the time I hit the forest edge, I had slaughtered another 50 geese, already halfway to level 4. My power was growing so fast that it almost felt like a dream. Other student teams were finally starting to trickle into the zone. Most were stuck at level 1 or 2. The absolute best were maybe level 3. I gave them a head start of several hours, and somehow I had already caught right up to the elites. As the sun began setting, a thick, heavy mist started rolling right across the plains. The real danger was only just beginning. The whole atmosphere of the secret realm shifted as evening finally hit. That thick mist acted like a curtain, completely swallowing the last remaining daylight. I stepped out of the woods and headed straight toward the level 5 monster zone. The air grew incredibly heavy. The fog became so dense I could barely even see my own hands. I had only walked about 200 meters when I suddenly stopped. My enhanced vision caught an unusual shimmer cutting right through the gray haze. I moved forward, approaching the base of an old withered tree. Right there, a silver-white plant stood about half a person tall. Its needle-like leaves glowed with a very soft, rhythmic light. My heart totally skipped a beat. A spirit herb. These definitely weren't just common weeds. They were rare plants grown from pure spiritual energy. Finding them was actually one of my main goals for this entire trip. I hadn't spotted any in the lower-level zones, mostly because the faster student teams had probably picked them entirely clean. If I really wanted the good stuff, I had to stay way ahead of the pack. I knelt down in the dirt and examined it closely. It was silver needlegrass. Back when I was working for Old Wu, I had learned how to identify these precious materials. I reached out, pressing my bare palm against the glowing leaves. I triggered endless extraction. A faint light quickly flickered. The extraction was a complete success. I obtained 1 portion of silver needle spirit liquid and gained 3 points of perfect spirit. A cool, incredibly refreshing wave of energy surged straight into my forehead, clearing my mind instantly. Resting right in my palm, a small orb of emerald green liquid shimmered, pure and transparent. It smelled 10 times more potent than any ordinary plant ever could. This was perfect spirit liquid. I took a deep breath as a smirk tugged at my lips. People always said gatherers were totally useless. They really had no idea. The monster pelts and bones I collected were fine for low-level gear, but they honestly couldn't even compare to this stuff. When it came to value and utility, medicinal potions were absolute king. I carefully tucked the green liquid into my storage and kept moving. It wasn't long at all before I heard a low, throaty growl. A grayish-black beast the size of a medium dog lunged from the bushes, its nose twitching. A level 5 monster, a spirit hound. It had definitely caught my scent. Its eyes just burned with raw hunger as it bared its jagged teeth and pounced. My gaze turned ice cold. I charged. I triggered Power Strike, channeling 4 times my normal strength into one single punch. My fist slammed right into the hound's skull. Then came the sickening crunch of bone. The beast let out a pathetic yelp and flew backward like a broken rag doll. But I was already on it before it even hit the dirt. I followed up with a brutal downward strike. Having this much agility and strength made me feel less like a human and far more like a humanoid monster. The hound twitched twice, then went completely still. I gained 50 experience points. I knelt down to extract the dead carcass. Gained the hound's scent gland, along with 2 points of strength. I pushed deeper through the heavy mist, hunting and harvesting as I went. A short while later, I spotted a cluster of dark red fungi glowing in the dirt. Glowing mushrooms. Pulled off another clean extraction, grabbed some spirit liquid and 3 vitality points. Miles back at the level 5 border, the other student squads were fighting for their lives against one single spirit hound. Total panic on their end. I had already been sweeping this zone for an hour straight. Snagged 5 spirit herbs already and gave my base stats a massive boost. On top of the spirit liquid and the extra vitality, I actually hit level 4 and got a crazy drop from one hound. Extracted a rank 1 passive skill, Enhanced Smell. This thing was an absolute cheat code. I could pick apart the faintest traces in the air. In this heavy fog, my nose was honestly beating my eyes, catching a monster or an herb scent before seeing it. I grinned. Every piece of loot out here was basically mine. It was hitting 8 p.m. The fog had choked visibility down to less than 20 meters. Under academy rules, every student should have fallen back to the safe camp already. I could actually smell the wood smoke from their distant bonfires, huddling together in terror. But I wasn't done. This hidden dungeon only opened annually. Any herb someone else grabbed was a loss. I wanted it all. Another hour passed. I lost count of the hounds I slaughtered, but a flash signaled I hit level 5. Then it hit me. I was completely lost. Visibility choked down to 10 meters, leaving me totally dependent on my sense of smell. I almost turned back, then my nostrils flared. A scent hit me, faint, yet insanely concentrated. It was definitely spirit herbs, but the sheer volume was suffocating. I froze. Was there a king-tier herb out here? My eyes were useless, so I just followed the scent. 10 minutes later, I hit a narrow valley blocked by a sheer rock cliff. The trail just died right there. The aroma was everywhere, but there was zero way forward. I scanned the dead end, ready to bail. I had definitely wandered into the level 7 monster zone. Standing here in pitch black was pure suicide. Then a shape caught my eye. Something hiding behind a massive curtain of vines on the left wall. Ripping the vines back, I found a gap barely wide enough to crawl inside. Total darkness. My pupils shrank. A hidden cave. I leaned close, and a wave of raw spiritual energy blasted me right in the face. My heart slammed against my ribs. A spot like this had to be burying something legendary. Without that passive skill drop, I would have walked right past it. I paused for a single breath, then crawled in. My boosted stats could handle a few stray mobs, and I wasn't abandoning energy this pure. Inside, the fog totally vanished. With my night sight, I could literally see better down here than back in the woods. The cavern sloped deep underground. Muscles tight, I tracked the echo of my own breathing. 10 minutes and maybe 300 meters deep, the rock suddenly gave way. I stopped dead. I had just stepped into a sprawling underground chamber big enough to fit 1,000 people. But the size wasn't the real shock. The cavern walls were plastered with thousands of glowing specks. It felt like standing dead center in a star-filled galaxy. After grinding for herbs all day, I knew exactly what those glowing spots were. Are these all spirit herbs? My voice shook. If they were, there weren't just dozens. There were hundreds, maybe a full 1,000. Back in the woods, 2 agonizing hours got me exactly 5. Eyes wide, I stepped up to the glowing moss. Each plant was woven from countless hair-thin filaments, clinging tight to the bare stone. They dropped from the ceiling like a radiant emerald carpet, putting off this soft white glow. From a distance, a fallen galaxy. Up close, 1,000 tiny fireflies huddled together in the dark. I knew it instantly. Huntai. I used to handle this stuff back when I worked for Old Wu, the core ingredient for basic energy potions. It was only rank 1, but people fought over this stuff. Energy potions kept every dungeon crawler alive. High demand, chronic shortage. I just stood there, brain completely short-circuiting. This wasn't just flora. My chest was pounding. An absolute, literal goldmine. The Misty Plains dungeon only unlocked for a few days a year for freshmen, then sealed back up to regenerate. This cavern must have stayed hidden for decades. Not a single student had ever stumbled in here. Without my newly buffed senses, I would have walked right past it too. But now every single leaf belonged to me. I took a slow, deep breath to steady my nerves, no rushing. I thoroughly swept every dark corner for threats. Dead, absolute silence. If not for the pulsing starlight of the herbs, this cavern would have felt exactly like a tomb. I reached out, triggering my skill. Faint light flickered at my fingertips. Extraction successful. You obtained 1 Ingantai essence. Perfect quality. 3. My eyes widened. Spirit points. That meant my bursting fireball would hit even harder. I moved to the next plant. 5 extractions later, I gained 12 points of spirit. Eventually, the stat boost capped out, but those perfect quality essences just kept piling up. I harvested over 100 portions in one go before my arms finally started aching. And that was just one tiny section. Hundreds, maybe 1,000 more plants were waiting. Each one a treasure people would literally kill for. I pulled up my status panel to check my progress. The numbers staring back at me were borderline insane. Name Lu Hao. Level 5. Strength 20. Agility 35. Spirit 42. Constitution 26. Unassigned points. I had a skill list that absolutely should not belong to one person. Power enhancement. Haste, enhanced vision, enhanced smell, and fire element affinity. I exhaled slowly. Monster was the only word for it. With these stats, I could probably drop a full-grown professional, a warrior who could cast high-level spells. If I ran into an enemy now, they would not even know how to react. I did some quick mental math. The drops from those low-level mobs were practically worthless, but these herbs were totally different. Old Wu paid $100 just for a basic leaf. These perfect essences had to be worth 5 times that. Clearing this entire cave would easily net me hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I got back to work. Hours blurred in a feverish rhythm, extracting essence after essence until the cave air hung heavy with crushed herbs. Meanwhile, up on the surface, the vibe was a whole lot grimmer. Several camps sat in a wide clearing, divided up by school. Campfires flickered, throwing long shadows across the faces of totally exhausted students. Half of them were wrapped in bandages, clothes shredded and stained red. One student muttered that he never expected the monsters to be this tough. He had a nasty, jagged claw mark running straight down his right arm. "Tell me about it," his friend shot back. "My team is crawling an inch at a time. Pull more than 2 mobs and we are running for our lives. 80% of my energy potions are already gone. How will I survive 2 more days?" Same story everywhere. Everyone was physically and mentally shattered. The mages had it worst without their potions. They were basically dead weight. Over at the 3rd high school camp, an official was grimly counting heads. He announced they were missing 21 people. Everyone knew exactly what that meant. Either they were forced to pop their emergency teleporters, or they had not been fast enough to use them at all. Either way, trial over. Early dropouts would bomb the final exams. And the ones who did not make it out, their lives ended before they even began. Someone shouted that Lu Hao was missing too. Mocking laughter ripped right through the entire camp. Why even ask? He is either monster food or he ran away screaming the second he saw a bunny. A trash lifestyle worker actually entering a dungeon. It was always a complete joke. For the struggling students, mocking me was the only way to feel better about their own massive failures. Wang Xiang sat by the biggest fire. A cold, arrogant smirk plastered on his face. He was thrilled I was gone. If I died, nobody could claim my family's martyr bonus points. Hitting level 4 already made him the undisputed #1 rookie inside this dungeon. Xiao Hong leaned in, voice dripping with flattery. "Young Master Wang, level 4 on day 1. You are absolutely heading to a top-tier university. You will be a legend." Wang Xiang soaked it all in. He could already picture his future as the new war god, leading his family to absolute glory. But a sudden shout shattered his daydream. "Look, someone is coming back from the deep zone." Everyone turned. A lone figure walked out of the thick fog, heading straight for the camp. It was me. The dead silence that followed was deafening. I casually strolled out of high-level monster territory like it was a walk in the park. "He is alive," someone whispered, and that I had been deep in the forest all alone. Wang Shang's face turned a dark, really ugly shade of purple. My mere appearance was a physical slap to the face, completely shattering his smug little power trip. He looked ready to jump up and tear me apart right there. But with thousands of eyes watching, he could only sit and seethe. I did not even give them a second glance. Just found a quiet, dark corner far from the fires and sat down. I reached into my bag, feeling the heavy weight of my haul. 805 units of Ingantai. Even I could barely believe it. This was a fortune I never dared to dream of before entering the secret realm. Once this trial wrapped up, selling off these materials meant massive cash. But there was one serious problem. The 10,000 yuan I originally brought with me was almost gone. I was out of cash. That meant my endless extraction skill was running on fumes. Walking back to camp, I chewed over my options. Bailing out and ending the trial early crossed my mind first. But I despised the thought of throwing in the towel. I still needed those spiritual herbs to level up my talents. Then it clicked. I was sitting on a massive pile of raw materials for basic energy potions. If I just grabbed some wild plants to act as a catalyst, I could brew the stuff myself. I had done this a million times working for Old Wu. Whipping up a basic energy potion wasn't exactly rocket science. You just mix Huntai liquid with a few specific herbs. Normally you add stabilizers and fine salt for shelf life. But mine didn't need to last. I planned to chug them all by tomorrow anyway. Even without fancy lab gear, a rough batch would totally do the trick. I was staying. I killed a few minutes squeezing the juice out of some wild weeds I had snatched on the walk back. I choked down some stale bread to quiet my stomach, then got straight to work. I poured a splash of Huntai liquid into an empty bottle, added the plant catalyst, and gave it a shake. It reacted instantly. The liquid shifted to a clear, glowing light blue. Smelled just like fresh grass. I downed the first tube right away. 5 minutes later, a rush of strength hit me. It restored roughly 100 energy points. It actually worked. 100 bottles meant 10,000 energy points. Just enough fuel to clear this dungeon. I was halfway through mixing the second bottle when a voice made me jump. "Lu Hao, what are you making over there?" It was Xiao Dapping. We shared a desk for a whole semester, but barely ever spoke. I was a loner grinding night shifts. He was some rich kid whose dad struck it big, spending his nights clubbing and his days sleeping through lectures. He always tried to play the cool older brother with me, kept offering to drag me out to meet girls. I always passed. We lived in totally different worlds. He had no clue about my struggles, and his shallow life bored me. Now he had awakened as a B-rank undead summoner. I kept my eyes on my work. "Just basic energy potions," I muttered flatly. "Holy crap, you can do that?" Xiao Dapping squatted down, watching my hands move with practiced rhythm. His skepticism melted into total shock. "You actually know how to brew meds." I shot him a look, but stayed quiet. He thought this was some genius flex. To me, it was just another survival trick I learned working 3 jobs to eat. He looked at my past like it was a tragedy. I called it my foundation. He watched me work. Soon enough, Xiao Dapping was eyeing the bottles with serious greed. Hey, old classmate, can you spare a few for me? I am completely tapped out of mana. Didn't realize grinding mobs was this draining. I let a few seconds pass before answering him. Sure, but it will cost you. Xiao Dapping slapped his thigh in pure hype. I will take 10. Money is zero issue. How much? A regular shop charged 600 yuan. Mine were definitely rougher and totally lacked that professional polish. But down here in a dungeon with zero supplies, they were basically priceless. I had zero interest in playing merchant today, so I threw out a high number to test his resolve. 1,000 per bottle, I said with a deadpan face. Done. Without even blinking, he whipped a fat stack of cash from his pocket and counted out 10,000 yuan. His speed actually caught me a little off guard. I handed over the 10 bottles and got back to mixing. But a few minutes later, he was still hovering right over my shoulder. Why are you still standing there? He rubbed his palms together eagerly. Lu Hao, have you seriously thought about selling these? Man, this is a total gold mine. I stared at the cash. A single bottle restored 100 energy points, but sold for a cool 1,000 yuan. If I fed that money directly into the system to buy energy, I would get 10 times the return on my investment. But I really didn't want to stand around camp screaming like some desperate street vendor. I shook my head. Xiao Dapping just flashed a grin. I totally get it. You hate talking to people. Tell you what, let me handle the sales pitch. I will buy them for 1,000 each, and whatever markup I add becomes my commission. Deal. Whatever, I muttered back. He grabbed 30 more bottles and vanished right into the crowd. 10 minutes later, he sprinted back over, looking like he just hit the jackpot. They are gone. Every single one. People are absolutely losing their minds over these things. How many more can you make? He shoved 30,000 yuan into my hands. He wasn't even using my real name anymore. It was all Brother Hao now. His inner businessman was fully awake and practically boiling over. I have 50 more, I said, passing over the fresh batch. But I have one strict condition. Anything, brother. Just name it. I shot a look over to where Wang Xiang was resting. Sell to whoever you want, but do not give a single drop to Wang Xiang or his crew. Xiao Dapping actually hesitated. To a merchant, an enemy's cash still spends the same. Plus, snubbing Wang Xiang was a serious risk. He looked at the potions, then at me, and gave a firm nod. You got it. Your medicine, your rules. He turned and dashed right back into the crowd. Word had spread fast, and buyers instantly swarmed him. 1,500 for one bottle? You are robbing us, a short-haired girl shouted, glaring at the insane markup. Take it or leave it. There's a line behind you. Xiao Dapping barked back with a highly punchable smirk. He was even greedier than me, slapping a 500 yuan markup on every bottle. He knew he held a total monopoly. I will take 5, somebody yelled. 10 for me. You promised me next. People were waving thick stacks of cash in the air, shoving each other to reach him. A short-haired girl got nearly trampled in the chaos. That is when I saw Lin Shuyao and her squad walking over. Their priest Xiao stepped up and handed over 2 stacks of cash. 20 bottles, Xiao told him. Xiao Dapeng passed them over instantly. Spotting Lin Shuyao standing right behind her, his eyes totally lit up. He tossed in an extra bottle completely free of charge. A little discount for the goddess. He chirped, completely desperate to score points with a top-tier talent. Lin Shuyao just nodded at me from behind the crowd, a tiny gesture of acknowledgement. Then, a loud, arrogant voice ripped right through the noise. Xiao Dapeng, I am taking everything you have left. It was Li Chong and Xiao Hong, 2 of Wang Xiang's personal lackeys. We all knew exactly who sent them. Xiao Peng stared at the cash in Li Chong's fist, then slowly shook his head. Sorry, he muttered. I am not selling to you. The entire crowd went dead silent. Every single eye snapped to Li Chong, whose face flushed a bruised, ugly purple. He was absolutely livid. Damn it, Xiao Dapeng. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Xiao Dapeng just gritted his teeth. He had already picked his side and he was not backing down now. It means exactly what I said. No sale. Xiao Hong stepped up, jabbing a finger right in Xiao Dapeng's face. You are just the son of some new money trash. You really think you can mess with young Master Wang? Just wait. Once we are out of this dungeon, you are dead meat. Xiao Dapeng let out a cold laugh. You think dropping his name scares me? You think I was born yesterday? In the end, Li Chong and Xiao Hong had to march back to Wang Xiang empty-handed and absolutely fuming. The 3 of them huddled up, whispering. When they finished, Wang Xiang snapped. He kicked their campfire with his heavy boot, sending bright red sparks flying everywhere. The surrounding students scrambled backward in total fear. Wang Xiang glared at me and Xiao Dapeng like a coiled snake. The words ripped out of his throat in a low, nasty growl. That bastard Lu Hao and that little dog Xiao Dapeng. Who do they even think they are? It had to be Lu Hao's idea. Xiao Hong hissed. Shadapeng would never have the guts to cross us otherwise. Wang Xiang nodded slowly, his eyes totally dead. Li Chong, tomorrow morning you watch Lu Hao. The second he steps out of camp, follow him and finish the job. Dump him in a pile of monster carcasses. Keep it clean. I will not let a piece of garbage like him ruin my chances at Qingbei Martial Arts University. You got it, young Master Wang, Li Chong replied, his voice dripping with spite. For the next hour I stayed quiet, crafting basic energy potions. Xiao Dapeng was a total whirlwind, sprinting between the camps and coming back flushed with success. When we finally ran the numbers, we had moved 200 bottles. Brother Hao, this is only day one, Xiao Dapeng whispered, eyes gleaming. Tomorrow, when these kids get truly desperate, I bet we move 500 or 600. I gave no promises. I had just made 200,000 yuan. Xiao Dapeng, playing the perfect middleman, cleared a cool 100,000 for himself. He leaned in, grinning. Brother Hao, how about I slide you 50,000 from my cut? I just waved him off. You earned that with your own mouth. Keep it. Xiao Dapeng did not argue. His dad was a self-made business shark who built an empire from scratch. Clearly, he inherited those exact same genes. Even though his combat class was just a weak ranger, his street hustle was top tier. I looked at him, half smiling. Dapeng, you risked pissing off Wang Xiang for a mere 100 grand. That hardly seems like smart business. Does the loss not outweigh the gain? Wang Xiang is a total bully, Xiao Dapeng spat. Trying to rob people blind in broad daylight. I have hated his guts for ages. Is that right? I asked, glancing over. I did not buy the righteous hero act for a single second. Xiao Dapeng rubbed his hands together, his face dropping the act. Fine. The truth? Everyone thinks Wang Xiang is the heavy hitter here. But I am betting on you, Brother Hao. You forage, you craft. I want your good side. I studied him. He was smiling. Sure, but his eyes held a sharp, calculating glint. He didn't know my real secret, but his gut instinct was scary good. He dropped down onto the grass beside me, lowering his voice. Brother Hao, Wang Xiang is definitely gunning for you. Better watch your back, I know, I said simply. I laid back on the cool dirt, shutting my eyes. Xiao Dapeng muttered a bit more, but when I gave zero response, he finally took the hint and bounced. Night took over. Thick mist swallowed the camp like a wet shroud. The fire spat and popped. Most students were already zipped into sleeping bags, completely dead on their feet from day one. I just lay in the shadows scheming. I walked into this place with barely 10,000 yuan, playing it super stingy to hoard my mana. I had not even dared to throw my fireballs around. But with 200,000 riding in my pocket, everything changes. Tomorrow I was going to wipe this entire dungeon clean. Dawn broke. As the fog finally thinned out, teams started clicking their gear into place. I just slipped away alone, vanishing quietly into the whiteout. Yesterday my plan was simple: scavenge some stats, maybe dig up herbs for cash. Today I wanted the whole board. Attributes, talents, herbs, and experience. I needed high-tier spirit plants, not that basic garbage. As I slipped into the tree line, Wang Xiang watched me from afar. I worried he might actually stick with the group. Now he was just begging for death. He turned to Li Chong. Make it quick. Finish him and get back. Lin Shu Yao and I both hit level 5 yesterday. I need to hold the highest rank in this dungeon. Li Chong told him not to worry, pulling a heavy bow straight from his inventory. Squashing him is like stepping on an ant. I could have dropped him back at camp. I'll let him breathe for a few more minutes. Li Chong vanished into the woods right behind me. I headed straight for the level 6 zone. With my agility sitting at a staggering 52 points, I tore through that rugged forest like I was flying. Didn't even need haste. I crossed half a mile in a flash, hitting the dead center of the level 5 zone. Far behind me, Li Chong was already struggling. As a ranger, his whole kit was built on vision and speed. He was baffled. Why was a lifestyle worker charging into high-level territory? Pure suicide. Any beast out here would shred a normal person to pieces. But the ranger didn't care about my reasons. He only saw an easy kill. 10 minutes later, reality finally kicked in. I was scaling the jagged mountain terrain like a paved sidewalk. This isn't right, he muttered to himself, pulse spiking. How is he so fast? I wasn't even sprinting. My base stats were just that broken. Li Chong pushed his body to the absolute limit, just keeping me in sight. The camp was long gone. Nothing out here but wind through the branches and the hollow roar of distant monsters. I have to drop him now, Li Chong hissed. His frustration was boiling over. We were already crossing into level 6 territory. If a pack boxed us in, he'd be dead meat. Finishing the job would be entirely out of the question. I knew Li Chong would be utterly helpless if things went sideways. He clearly didn't care. He tightened his grip on that heavy bough, ready to strike. Then the ground dipped. I dropped out of sight behind a small ridge. Damn it, Li Chong hissed. He broke into a dead sprint, crossing the 200 meters in minutes. He reached the crest, looked down, and found nothing. I was gone. His heart skipped a beat. Where did he go? I called out, you are working pretty hard to keep up. My voice was dead calm. You looking to party up for a hunt? I stepped straight out from behind a dense cluster of bushes. No running, no panting, completely at ease. Saw me standing there, he just let out this sharp, mocking laugh. Keep running? Why did you stop? Li Chong sneered. Lu Hao, you really shouldn't have crossed young Master Wang. Some people in this world are just out of your league. I gave him a faint, bored smile. So you were here to kill me. Li Chong's face went dead cold. That's right. We were classmates. I didn't want to do this, but you brought it on yourself. Deep in a high-level monster zone, Li Chong knew he was completely out of time. He notched an arrow, hauled the heavy string taut, and fired. The weapon sang. It was his Tier 1 skill snipe. At 50 paces, his power and accuracy hit absolute peak. He dropped his arm the second the shaft flew. No need to watch. At this range, that shot was burying itself straight into my chest. Game over. Then his eyes went wide. The arrow shrieked past my shoulder and slammed deep into the bark of a tree behind me. A miss. That was his very first thought. It had to be. But a cold, sickening dread was already pooling in his gut. He didn't even blink. He ripped a second arrow from his quiver faster, pulling harder. A long-range specialist never misses twice. This time, he kept his eyes locked. As the arrow streaked forward, my body blurred. I tilted, just an inch. The second arrow ripped through empty air. I didn't just dodge his attack. I made it look pathetic, Li Chong stammered. His brain just couldn't process it. A useless lifestyle worker had casually sidestepped two of his absolute best shots. The ant had just grown to the size of a mountain. Aren't you a lifestyle class? He choked out. You got 2 shots, I told him softly. Now it is my turn. I started that sentence exactly 50 meters away. By the last syllable, I was standing directly in his face. Way too fast. That was the last coherent thought in Li Chong's head. I drove a fist upward, crushing it straight into his ribs. 6 or 7 bones snapped in unison. The crack echoed through the entire clearing. Instant, blinding agony. Li Chong launched backward like a discarded rag doll. Tumbling through the air, pure terror washed away the pain. His ranger senses were dangerously sharp. He had no idea how I moved like a galloping horse, or why my fist hit like a falling mountain. He knew I could end him. And he finally realized I actually wanted to. Through blurred vision, he caught my expression. Dead. Indifferent. A massive fireball began to violently coalesce inside my left hand. He knew the next hit meant death. Li Chong's heart almost gave out. Wind screamed in his ears as he flew. The pain made him dizzy, but pure terror kept him awake. I just stared at him like he was already a corpse. He didn't hesitate. Right in midair, he smashed his emergency teleport bracelet. A glowing shield flickered to life around him. At that exact second, my dark red bursting fireball slammed into the barrier. A deafening boom shook the air. Flame swallowed the shield. Li Chong squeezed his eyes shut, feeling blistering heat through the barrier. When the smoke finally cleared, I frowned. The spot where he just stood was completely empty. He managed to escape. Fast on the trigger, I muttered to myself. I was strong, but shattering the school's emergency gear wasn't easy yet. Li Chong was just Wang Xiang's lapdog anyway. Killing him didn't really matter. The message was delivered. I turned around and headed deeper into the fog. Back at the plaza outside the dungeon, the teleport gate flashed violently. A charred, bloody figure stumbled out and hit the pavement hard. Li Chong's limbs twitched uncontrollably. Most of his hair was gone. Severe burns covered his skin, and his left side was completely caved in. He knew if he was a fraction of a second slower, he'd be a charred husk. Teachers rushed over, and someone immediately began casting healing spells. How is he that strong? Li Chong wondered, his mind racing with absolute terror. Was he hiding his true strength all along? Those are serious burns, Principal Jian said, shaking his head. Did you run into a fire goose? Li Chong stayed quiet for a second. It was Lu Hao. He didn't dare mention that Wang Xiang sent him to attack me. He definitely didn't want to admit he almost died trying. The principal froze entirely. What did you say, Lu Hao? The one from your class? Impossible. The principal scoffed loudly. He is just a lifestyle worker. The other principals gathered around and laughed it off. They figured Li Chong was just suffering from battle shock. They sent him to a medical tent. Li Chong lay in his sleeping bag, staring blankly at the ceiling. His entire body trembled. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that fireball exploding right in his face. The intense heat, the blinding light, that suffocating feeling of death. He was an A-rank ranger, and he had been nearly one shot. Nobody would ever believe him. He sat up suddenly, his face draining of color. Wang Xiang and the others had zero idea what I was capable of. They still thought I was trash. If they ran into me, Li Chong shuddered. My speed, my strength, that massive fireball, none of it was natural. Wang Xiang was strong, but against that kind of overwhelming power, he wouldn't even get the chance to run. Back in the dungeon, I didn't care about the outside world. The terrain shifted into a jagged stone forest. Suddenly, a thin, nearly invisible thread wrapped right around my ankle. On the other end sat a spider the size of a wash basin. Its back was marked with a hideous, ghostly face. A ghost-faced spider. I didn't panic at all. I flipped my hand, instantly forming a bursting fireball. These things hated fire. A massive blast erupted right on the spider's back. It let out a piercing, high-pitched shriek. My head throbbed for a second from the mental screech. Thankfully, my spirit stat was high enough to shake it off instantly. The charred spider turned and scrambled deep into the stone forest. Trying to run, I muttered, quickly giving chase. I wasn't about to let this thing get away. I flicked my wrists, sending 2 more fireballs screaming through the air. They hit with a deafening crash, swallowing the creature in flames. A system notification flashed. You killed a ghost-faced spider. Experience plus 60. I walked over to the smoking remains and activated Endless Extraction. Spirit attribute plus 2. Not bad at all. With over 200,000 credits sitting in my account, I didn't have to hold back anymore. I became a one-man artillery battery. The stone forest lit up with a constant rhythmic orange glow, blast after blast. The explosions never stopped. I fired my bursting fireballs one after another, just like a semi-automatic cannon. Every time a group of spiders showed their faces, they were incinerated before they could even screech. My screen flooded with notifications of spirit attribute gains. Suddenly, a bright white light shimmered over the corpse I was harvesting. A critical hit for my extraction. You have obtained an F-rank spirit talent, Spirit Sensing. I felt a sudden shift in my mind. A subtle awareness of the elements and mental energy flowing all around me. This was totally different from my fire affinity. That was specific to one single element. But Spirit Sensing was universal. It meant the range of spells I could learn just cracked wide open. Stepping through the charred rubble, I spotted a dull red glow, tucked inside a dark, shaded crevice. It was a thick, blood-colored herb that looked like it was carved straight from jade. A blood soul grass. I extracted it instantly, receiving a bottle of perfect blood soul essence. I downed it fast, feeling a warm surge of pure vitality rush through my limbs. Life attribute plus 3. That was the beauty of staying ahead of the pack. I drifted through the stone forest like a ghost, completely dead set on stripping the place bare before anyone else showed up. Yesterday I played it safe, sticking to the shadows, dodging fights. Today I was an absolute wrecking ball. I wiped the entire zone clean, grabbed 7 more herbs and bumped my life attribute up by another 21 points. Then that familiar golden light of a level up washed over me. Not once, but 3 times back to back. In just over an hour, I slaughtered hundreds of those spiders and shot straight up to level 8. My clear speed was bordering on cruel. I didn't stop. Pushed right into the level 7 zone prime territory for the Iron Bone Apes. These things were absolute freaks. 2.5 meters tall, built like tanks and wildly aggressive. They charged, snapping thick trees like toothpicks in their path. But my fireballs hit way harder than they did. With 52 spirit points backing me up, my spells landed like meteorites. I fired them off in rapid bursts, burning through my 500 mana points in minutes. Anybody else would have been forced to stop and rest, or choke down some slow-acting potion. I just dropped a few hundred credits to instantly top off my mana bar, keeping the barrage rolling. An hour later, the level 7 map was a complete graveyard. I snagged 9 more spiritual herbs, tacking 27 points onto my life attribute. Another wave of system alerts hit. I was level 11. The experience requirement jumped tenfold, but now I was pulling 6 free attribute points per level instead of 5. Then I stopped. Something was glowing down in the dirt. Looked exactly like a tiny blood-red human root putting off a faint mist. A grade 2 bloodbone ginseng. This was a premium ingredient for high-level healing potions. Easily worth as much as a grade 3 herb. I just hit the absolute jackpot. Extracted the essence life attribute plus 4. And headed straight toward the level 8 zone. I never even looked back. Meanwhile, way back down in the level 5 zone, a 5-man squad was fighting for their lives against 2 spirit hounds. Total chaos. One hound lunged forward, sinking its teeth into the mage's arm and ripping flesh away until white bone showed. Blood sprayed everywhere. They finally managed to kill the beasts and heal up their mage. But the squad was entirely wiped out. The tank wiped sweat from his brow, grumbling. Why are there so few monsters around here? Yeah, another teammate chimed in. We've been hiking for ages and only found those 2. Haven't spotted a single herb today either. You think another team is ahead of us? The leader side, don't overthink it. We just need to pick up the pace. And they weren't alone. All across the level 5 zone, scattered teams were scratching their heads, wondering where all the monsters went. They had zero clue that I simply deemed the level 5 mobs a complete waste of time. If I actually bothered clearing them, those teams would have found absolutely nothing. Further up, inside the level 6 stone forest, a high-level squad stood completely frozen. They were staring at a clearing completely covered with 20 charred ghost-faced spider carcasses. "No way," one guy whispered. "Who did this? Who pulls 20 of these things at once?" Heavy silence filled the air, broken only by the sharp reek of burnt hair and copper. If they had not seen the bodies themselves, they would have called the person telling this story a total liar. Even top-ranked students like Lin Shuyao or Wang Xing shouldn't be able to pull off a brutal massacre on this kind of scale. They moved as fast as physically possible. And yet, they were walking right into a wasteland. Deep in the level 7 zone, Lin Shuyao's elite team was starting to slow down. Their faces looked incredibly grim. They tracked the trail of sheer destruction across the lower zones. Now they were staring at the exact same mess here. They were supposed to be the squad destined for that top spot. But somebody else was outperforming them by a truly terrifying margin. Could it be Wang Xiang? Liang asked, his voice shaking just a bit. "I know his berserker class is strong, but this is totally insane." The female assassin frowned. "I really don't think so. I checked his level last night. He was level 5 exactly like us. No way he pulled this off." The priest spoke up. "Maybe there is some dark horse team we totally missed. Low individual talent but insane group synergy." Lin Shuyao shook her head, narrowing her eyes as she scanned the thoroughly scorched earth. Impossible. She knew her own strength as an S rank, and she knew exactly how elite her team really was. Whoever was pushing ahead of them was not just some strong team. They were something else entirely. My current squad was absolutely stacked. We had a B-rank assassin, an A-rank sharpshooter, a B-rank priest, and a C-rank tank. Even Lang, despite being our weakest link, was decked out in enough luxury gear to make him a serious force on the battlefield. A lineup like ours was built to sit at the very top of the food chain. Suddenly, our archer Swan stopped and studied the dirt. Her sharp eyes scanned the chaotic aftermath of the battle. "It is not Wang Xiang's team," she said firmly. "Just look at these burn marks. The primary damage here came from heavy fire skills. Wang Xiang doesn't even have a fire mage in his group." We all stood there, completely stunned. I hadn't heard of any powerful fire mages coming out of this year's Awakening ceremony. Was it some kid from a hidden elite family? Or maybe they brought top-tier beginner gear to just steamroll the zone like this. I waved my hand to keep us focused. I told them it didn't matter who was out there, even though my own heart was racing. The fact is, a super strong team is pushing ahead. If we slow down, we eat their dust. We have to pick up the pace. We pushed deeper into the level 7 Iron Bone Leopard Ape territory. As we moved out, Swan hung back for a split second. She stared at the shriveled, completely dried-up corpse of a leopard ape. Her brow furrowed. This wasn't the first time she had seen a monster left completely drained like this. Her mind flashed to Lu Hao, the dungeon's only collector. She shook the thought away instantly. That was completely impossible. Even if Lu Hao was secretly hiding something, there was no way a basic lifestyle worker could be a top-tier fighter. The idea was too ridiculous to say out loud, so she stayed completely quiet. Meanwhile, over in another part of the level 7 zone, Wang Xiang's team was struggling to survive. 4 iron bone leopard apes had them entirely pinned down. They were drenched in blood, their expensive armor totally battered. Without their massive stash of high-grade potions and defensive items, they would have been dead long ago. Wang Xiang was absolutely furious. He had waited around for Li Chong to come back, but the guy never showed. Desperate to reclaim the top rank for the Changzhou exams while short-handed, he pushed his squad into the level 7 zone way too early. Normally, teams spent hours grinding level 5 and 6 mobs to gear up, but those areas had already been picked completely clean. They had to fight monsters way above their own weight class just to find a target. Following a brutal clash, they finally managed to put down the 4 apes. But everyone took heavy damage. Wang Xiang had a huge gash on his back exposing bone, and their priest was nearly decapitated. He muttered that this was all Li Chong's fault. Xiaohong snarled while wrapping his mangled left arm. Where the hell was he? With a full team, they wouldn't be this beat to hell. Wang Xiang hissed at the idiot, his face twisted in pure rage. How long did it really take to kill a piece of trash like Lu Hao? He was practically losing his mind. He just assumed Lin Shuyao's team was the one wiping out the forest ahead. The idea that she was already that far ahead filled him with a bitter, suffocating kind of despair. If he had actually realized the trash he sent Li Chong to kill was the real cause of this chaos, probably would have gone completely insane. I, on the other hand, had zero clue about the absolute mess I was leaving behind. On paper, I really shouldn't be this overpowered. I was playing solo, sure, but I had a pretty huge secret weapon, infinite mana. Pair that with my tier 2 bursting fireball, and I was basically a walking missile launcher with zero cooldown. I already burned through 70,000 mana points without blinking. I was clearing the map so incredibly fast that the trailing teams were pushed into higher level zones just to find a single mob. Danger levels were absolutely skyrocketing. Back out at the entrance plaza, school principals watched in total confusion. A record number of students were hitting their emergency teleports to escape the dungeon. Nothing like this had ever happened before. Meanwhile, I felt incredible. For the first time, I didn't hold anything back. I just swept across the foggy plains, totally obliterating monsters and snagging every rare herb in sight. By noon, I leaned against a massive tree root to catch my breath. I inhaled some dry bread and water, checking my system stats. I hit level 12, sitting just a few thousand experience points away from 13. After a quick break, I headed right back out. A few minutes later, I completely froze. The forest was dead silent. No birds. Just a thick, suffocating kind of stillness. I sharpened my senses, scanning the rotting trees and thick vines. 10 meters to my left, the edge of a gray rock seemed to twitch. Two small bulbous eyes slowly rolled toward me. It was alive. A black shadow suddenly lashed out from the stone at blinding speed. I tilted my head back just in time, feeling the wind of the projectile graze my skin. Fast, way too fast. Even as I dodged, a massive fireball was already glowing bright in my left. I slammed it straight into the shadow. A high-pitched shriek ripped through the air as the monster's camouflage totally shattered. A fog shadow chameleon level 8. Before it could even recover, I launched a second massive fireball, then a third. A fourth. I didn't stop until the thing was just a charred heap of meat. System notification: you have slain a fog shadow chameleon. Experience up 80 points. I walked right over and activated my extraction ability. Mental attribute +2. These things were totally lethal if they caught you slipping. But with my enhanced vision, they were just target practice. Within the next 60 seconds, I spotted two more hiding out in the brush. I turned them to ash before they could even twitch. A white glow erupted from the final corpse. A critical hit. You have successfully extracted the deep source. You just obtained a Tier 1 mental skill. I stared at the prompt floating in my vision. I had just extracted a Tier 1 mental skill pseudo-disguise. It let me form a layer of mental energy over my skin, hiding my stats and slightly blurring my facial features and body shape. It held 0 combat value. But for a guy needing to stay completely off the radar, it was an absolute godsend. I wasted 0 time. I tore through the level 8 zone, harvested 8 stalks of spirit grass, and pushed straight to level 13. My experience bar locked in at exactly 10,000 points, finally clicking over into my next stage of growth. Next up was the level 9 zone, home to the bladed mantises. These things were the speed kings of the novice realm, capable of terrifying bursts. A total nightmare for anyone else, but for me, I was a walking missile battery. I didn't even break stride. Picking herbs actually took more time than the fighting. The slaughter was just a side effect of my walk. Night dropped, the thick fog rolled right back in, choking visibility down to almost 0. This trial had 10 full levels of monsters. I had already cleared the 9th. Logic dictated I should retreat to base camp, just like the night before. That was the safe play, sure. But I was miles ahead of the other students now. Hiking back would take hours. I decided to stay. I could just slow my pace, keep grinding, and crash in a tree if I got exhausted. While I slipped through the shadows, another team was struggling hard nearby. Lin Shu Yao and her group. They hadn't gone back either. Xiao, the little priest, whispered that the fog was just too thick. Her voice shook. "We are only level 7, she pleaded. "The monsters ahead are level 9 and 10. We are already lagging behind that top team. Staying out here is suicide." Lin Shu Yao gritted her teeth. Her eyes flashed with pure stubborn pride. "That top team did not retreat if they aren't scared. Why should we be?" I knew exactly how her mind worked. As the strongest S-rank lightning mage in Sanzhou this year, she absolutely refused to be outperformed by some anonymous stranger. She was dragging her team right to the breaking point just to satisfy her own ego. They tried to press on but quickly slammed into the bladed mantises. In this thick fog, the bugs held every advantage. The formation nearly collapsed, with several members taking nasty hits. Suan, the archer, begged them to stop. "One more pack and we are totally done." Lin Shu Yao finally nodded. They found a slope, rigged basic alarms, and built a small fire. The atmosphere was suffocatingly heavy. Even Li Yang, the guy who spent every waking second kissing up to her, sat dead silent. "Everyone get some rest," Lin Shu Yao ordered in a low voice. "I will take the first watch." She paced the perimeter of the camp, staring into the gray void. I watched her from the dark, perfectly hidden by the fog and my new skill. I wondered if she was thinking about me. In her head, I was probably already back in the city, safely tucked away in bed. She likely thought I was brave for entering the woods as a lifestyle worker, but ultimately useless. She felt guilty. I knew it. She knew her father owed my family a massive debt that could never be repaid. Suddenly, her head snapped toward my exact direction. "Who is there?" she barked. I let my silhouette flicker through the mist. I did not say a single word, just gave her a cold passing glance and turned to walk away. "Wait!" she yelled, sprinting after me. She chased me for 100 meters through the swirling fog until I finally stopped and faced her. I let the mist thin just enough for her to see my face. She froze, her eyes blew wide, filled with total disbelief. Lu Yuan. She could have imagined anyone out here. A top-tier genius, a seasoned hunter, a literal ghost, but never me. A combatless lifestyle worker shouldn't have survived the walk to the level 3 zone, let alone the absolute depths of this forest. What are you doing here? She screamed, her voice tearing between raw fury and genuine panic. This is a high-level zone. Are you completely insane? I don't care how you made it this far, you are coming to our camp right now. I just stared, perfectly flat. Why shouldn't I be here? I go where I want. You have lost your mind, she yelled back, her voice completely cracking. Your father, your brother, they would want you alive, not throwing your life away in some stupid fit of stubbornness. Before I could even respond, a low guttural roar shook the actual dirt beneath our boots. Two glowing red eyes ignited in the fog like twin pale. A level 10 iron armor bear? Way out here? She grabbed my arm in a vice grip. Lu Yuan, run. But it was too late. A massive shadow bled out of the mist. 4 meters tall. Built like a house. Wrapped in jagged iron plates instead of fur with needle-sharp spines tracing down its back. This was no normal monster. It was an elite iron armor bear. It is an elite, she whispered, her voice violently shaking. She drew her short staff, knuckles turning bone white. She stepped right in front of me, a human shield. I will hold it off. Lu Yuan, run. Do not look back. I didn't argue. No goodbyes. I just turned on my heel and sprinted into the fog. I moved so fast I was just gone in seconds. Lin Xiao stood there, completely stunned. She told me to run. Still seeing me actually bail without a second thought. Yeah, that definitely stung. A heavy sigh escaped her lips. Grim resignation. She probably figured this was how she paid off her family's debt to mine. Level 7 going up against an elite level 10 strength of monster. She didn't stand a chance. A teleportation ring could have gotten her out in a flash. But she didn't use it, she stayed. She knew if she bolted, the beast would hunt me down. She screamed for lightning armor, waving her staff as crackling electricity wrapped her body. The bear roared. Massive paws thundered against the dirt, charging forward like a falling mountain. She screamed out a lightning bolt, launching her attack. A talented S-rank. Sure, but talent has limits when you are hopelessly outgunned. Lin Shuyao's reaction time was absolutely top tier. Teeth clenched. She unleashed a fist-sized ball of lightning right at the iron armor bear. The impact triggered a deafening boom. Blue and white light exploded through the thick mist. But raw force alone wouldn't stop a monster of that caliber. The elite bear didn't even flinch. One swing of a massive paw smashed right through her lightning armor like cheap glass. A sharp groan escaped her as she was thrown backward. She hit the dirt hard. Blood leaked down her chin. She was just too weak. She couldn't hold the line. That explosion alerted the rest of the camp. Shouts echoed as figures rushed the scene. Swan the archer got there first. She covered 100 meters in seconds. Her face drained of color the second she saw the bear looming over Lin Shuyao. No hesitation, she let an arrow fly with a sharp whistle. The beast was ready to kill, but it had to swat that arrow away. That bought Lin Shuyao 2 precious seconds to roll back and make space. It's an elite beast. Zhaoji shouted the warning, his face completely pale. Xiao the priest started casting a heal with a trembling voice. They couldn't win this. Liang the shield warrior hung in the back. His face turned green, legs physically shaking. Then the elite iron armor bear slowly turned its attention to the group. Extra bodies didn't bother it at all. It just licked its lips. Dark red eyes scanned their throats with a low, starving growl. Paws slammed the earth. 2 massive craters caved in, sending stone fragments flying everywhere. Despite its massive size, it moved like a runaway truck. Lock it down and take the aggro. Lin Shuyao screamed the order. She knew they needed a tank holding the line, or none of them were surviving. Liang stumbled forward a few steps, but as that mountain of muscle bore down on him, he looked into its eyes. Crushing, killing intent hit him. He broke. He shrieked that he couldn't take it, leaving his shield completely lowered. He rolled sideways, letting the bear rush right past him. His shield slipped out of his hands as he scrambled into the thick fog, running blind without ever looking back. Swan screamed at Liang in absolute fury. Without a tank up front, the entire formation instantly collapsed. The assassin and the archer tried holding their ground, but they were just glass cannons. One swipe sent them flying backward, coughing up blood. Xiao stood frozen in the rear, a lamb waiting for the slaughter. Tossing the others aside, the monster turned its sights right back to Lin Shuyao. She was left totally exposed. Xiao whispered that it was over, squeezing her eyes shut. Then a brilliant flash of fire ripped through the gloom. A fireball with a long flaming tail shrieked through the air. It slammed the bear with a massive blast, turning it into a living torch. The flames didn't even have time to settle before a dark shadow burst out of the mist. I was back. Moving like a lightning bolt, I appeared right in front of the elite beast. I pulled my fist back, channeled every ounce of my boosted strength, and smashed its ribs. The sound of snapping bone echoed out, sickeningly clear. That elite monster let out a pathetic wail as my punch launched its massive body. It smashed through 3 thick trees before eating dirt. Dead silence over the forest. Lin Shuyao swan Zhaoji, and Xiao just stood there, staring at me in shock. I stood my ground, cold expression, radiating a heavy pressure that made everyone's heart skip a beat. Right hand still clenched tight. In my left, a brand new crimson fireball started churning with pure violent energy. Somebody whispered my name, but I gave them zero time to think. I hurled that second fireball, catching the beast right in the skull as it tried standing up. Red light painted the forest. A massive shockwave flattened the brush, but I wasn't done yet. I launched off the ground like a cannonball, leaving a crater in my wake. Nothing but a blur. The smoke hadn't even cleared before I was on top of the creature again. Heavy punches rained down, each one shoving the beast dozens of meters back. Every time it hit the ground, I was already there ready to strike it down again. The girls could only listen to the sick rhythm of shattering bones and snapping trees. Then, dead silence. All 4 of them just stood there with their mouths open, trapped in a total nightmare. They witnessed everything. The blinding speed of a cheetah, the raw strength of a mountain, the brutal magic of a high mage. No one person could possibly have it all. I stepped back out of the fog, dragged the massive, lifeless carcass of the elite bear right behind me. I had squashed it as easily as swatting a bug. The only sound left was the crackle of their distant campfire. Swan could not stop her bow hand from shaking. Shoshi could barely hold his daggers. Xiao covered her mouth, fighting back a scream. Lin Shuyao sat there on the dirt just staring at me. She had no clue who I was, just some insanely powerful stranger. Only students were allowed in this zone. Compared to them, I looked like an absolute god. I gave them a quick glance to make sure no one was dying. Seeing they were pretty much fine, I turned away. Wait, Lin Shuyao struggled to her feet. Who are you? I paused. Didn't look back. Her voice trembled as she asked if I was the one clearing out the entire zone. Then her eyes went wide. Level 13? Are you level 13 already? I had completely forgotten to hide my level after the kill. I stayed quiet. There is no team, she realized out loud. It was just you this whole time. Tell me your name. I stood out in the mist for a long moment. I couldn't let them know who I really was just yet. Yuan, I replied, keeping my voice low and icy. Then I dragged the bear back into the dark, vanishing in seconds. Lin Shuyao and her team just stood there, totally frozen in the mist. Nobody spoke for a long time. Joshi swallowed hard, his face dead pale. 1 punch and 1 fireball to kill a level 10 elite. That was impossible. He asked what kind of absolute monster that guy was. Xiao whispered, wondering if there was really a student this strong in their year. Level 13. That was completely unheard of. Lin Shuyao kept her eyes glued to where I vanished. If I had not shown up, she and her team would be ripped apart by the claws of that ironclad elite bear. Those beasts were incredibly fast and terrifyingly strong. Even if they triggered their teleportation bracelets, they might not have escaped in time. The whole scene kept looping inside her mind. The sheer force of that punch, the blistering heat of the flame, and the cold silhouette of that guy dragging the carcass away. She looked at her male teammates, feeling a sharp sting of disappointment. The second danger showed up. They both ran. But that guy stood his ground like a god. No wonder he cleared the entire zone alone. Do you guys think he looked familiar? Swan the archer suddenly asked. The others looked at her, completely confused. She hesitated before speaking again. She said he actually looked a bit like Lu Hao. Joshi immediately burst out laughing. He asked if the shock was giving her hallucinations. Lu Hao, the lifestyle worker. Xiao shook her head with a heavy sigh, asking Swan if she even realized what she was saying. Lu Hao didn't even have combat talent. Comparing a lowly gatherer to that insane powerhouse was literally like comparing dirt to the sky. Swan opened her mouth to argue but quickly went quiet. Even she had to admit the idea sounded ridiculous. How could some common worker suddenly become a top-tier expert? And yet that nagging sense of familiarity just would not leave her alone. Actually, I did see Lu Hao around here earlier, Lin, Shuyao said suddenly. The 3 of them snapped their heads right toward her. Xiao gasped, asking if she meant that guy actually was me. Lin Shuyao shook her head, explaining how she bumped into me right before the attack. She told them how I supposedly ran away to save my own skin just like Lan. Joshi was absolutely furious. He called me a coward and a piece of trash. Said it was a complete waste for Lin Shuyao to ever care about me. Xiao was just as angry. To them, there was a world of difference between the hero who saved them and the cowardly Lu Hao who abandoned them. The group slowly headed back to camp to treat their wounds, totally unaware that the hero and the coward were the exact same person. I wasn't far away. Once I was 200 meters out of sight, I dropped the massive bear carcass with a thud. I had used my mimicry skill to change my face before stepping in. I just didn't want my true abilities exposed out there yet. I had been watching them the entire time, waiting until the very last second to ensure the bear didn't actually kill them. With my current stats, I was basically a balanced powerhouse, easily matching a level 30 combatant. Taking down a level 10 elite was light work. I rubbed my nose and finally dropped the disguise. In Lin Shuyao's eyes, I was now just a pathetic loser who left her to die. I couldn't help but smile. I really didn't care what she thought of me. My only goal was getting stronger. I needed enough power to find my father and my brother. They were my only family. I absolutely refused to let their disappearances remain an unsolved mystery. I looked down at the ironclad bear. My heart started racing. Through all my extractions, I learned a pattern. Everything can be extracted, but the base quality really matters. Regular weeds and rabbits gave me almost nothing. I needed actual spiritual beasts. An elite monster like this had to hold way more power. I pressed my palm flat against the dead bear's fur, endless extraction. Blinding white light erupted from the massive carcass. I gained 3 raw points of strength. Then a system prompt flashed. A critical hit. I had pulled out a deep source, snagging a level 1 strength talent called Strength Super Evolution that handed me a 200% attack boost, mainly because I already held 2 similar talents. The system asked if I wanted to fuse them together. 0 hit synthesize. The glow burned brighter. I just forged a land-grade talent Strength Eruption. Raw power flooded my veins, spiking my attack efficiency to 300%. My heart hammered hard against my ribs. Finally, one of my 4 core stats just shattered the land-grade ceiling. Stacking power like this meant I could eventually hit triple S grade across the board. Was there anything beyond that peak? A wild surge of confidence hit me, but I quickly shook it off. Still a seriously long road ahead. I was basically a perfectly balanced weapon right now. Assassin speed, raw warrior strength, mage spell, and a massively deep pool of health. Add in my mana recovery, I could fight forever. If I fought Lin Shuyao right now, I could kite her, or step in and break her with one punch. I thought about my dad and brother. Dad was an absolute god of war. My brother? A genius packing double S-grade talent. What kind of hell could trap guys like them? I pictured those tight, grim looks on their faces right before they left me in the dark. A slow breath settled my nerves. Just had to take this one step at a time. I had mostly wiped this zone clean anyway, so I found a quiet cave to crash. Tomorrow was the final day in this place. When morning mist finally lifted on day 3, the whole Sangha secret realm was a total mess. My violent monster clearing spree had the rest of the student body locked in pure panic. Lots of them were forced to engage higher-level beasts just to scavenge anything an incredibly deadly risk. Others couldn't find a single target. Nobody even guessed one low-rank lifestyle worker had robbed the whole forest right out from under them. I was the sole reason for the panic. The exact same guy they trashed before entering had single-handedly wrecked the leveling pace of 10,000 students. That had literally never happened in the history of beginner realms. Not that I would have cared either way. Wiping the edge of the level 9 zone, I shoved straight into level 10 territory. Just a one-man army operating with brutal efficiency. Along with those 4 strength points I got from the elite ironclad bear last night. I ripped 10 more points off 5 normal bears. 0 new talents or skills dropped from me, but I honestly didn't care. By noon, I grabbed 13 spiritual herbs from the level 10 zone, plus 2 second-tier plants. Hit level 14. Experience bar sitting at 10,000 out of 50,000. My progress was fine, there just weren't enough breathing targets left out here to kill. No rush, though. The overall loot from this run had already completely smashed my expectations. I slumped down to rest and calculate my massive haul, checking the inventory first. 647 portions of first-tier spiritual liquid, mostly boiled down from firefly soulgrass. I also secured 3 doses of second-tier liquid. Every single drop was flawless quality. That was my post-realm survival fund. Next up, the status panel. Name Lu Hao. Strength 43. Agility 45. Spirit 77. Constitution 98. 66 free attribute points left. My active talents and skills stretched into a pretty long list now. D-grade Strength Explosion, F-grade Haste, and a raw affinity for the fire element. My bursting fireball already hit the second tier. I sucked in a harsh breath staring at that math. At level 14, I was lapping the entire field. Lin Shuyao was probably stuck at level 8 or 9 right now. Wang Song, even worse off. My raw attributes tripled an S-grade prodigy like Lin Shuyao. Plus, I was the first person in this place wielding a second-tier skill. Next to my classmates, I was a predator circling the clouds, while they were basically chicks pecking dirt. I kept my ego in check, though. Sure, I was strong for my age, but veteran combat professionals out in the real world would still snap me in half. I wasn't anyone special yet. Unlike the other kids leveling at a safe pace, I had a heavy secret to swallow and a lost family to hunt down. My road was going to pit me against monsters way outside my pay grade. Staying low-key was survival. staring at those 66 free points. Strength and spirit carried my damage output. Dropped 20 into strength, dumped the remaining 46 straight into spirit. New stat. Strength 63. Agility 45. Spirit 123. Constitution 98. If the other students saw those insane numbers, they would genuinely drop to their knees. My bursting fireball just got 50% deadlier. Meanwhile, across the zone, Lin Shuyao's team stood around waiting for the final teleport out. Do you think he hit level 14 after this morning? Xiao the priest suddenly asked. She dropped no names, but everyone knew exactly who she meant. He claimed his name was Yan, but that has to be a fake. Zhao Shi the assassin muttered. I just want to know who he actually is and how he got so strong. We will find out once we get outside, Lin Shuyao said softly. Someone at his level is truly unique. I want to thank him properly, Xiao added. Maybe even invite him to dinner. Dinner? You just want to marry the guy for saving your life? The others teased. Everyone was buzzing. Every girl admired Ra's strength, especially a mysterious hero who just pulled them from certain death. But outside Secret Realm, the vibe was completely different. The Wong family had arrived. Flanking them were several men in uniform, their eyes cold and detached. Everyone recognized that gear. These guys were Bureau of Investigation, the official strike force keeping society in check. Nobody wanted to cross paths with them. The beginner realm finally closed. The vortex portal dominating the plaza flared bright, spitting students back into the real world. A crushing pressure squeezed my chest, followed by a dizzy wave. 1 second later, I was standing in the packed plaza. Over in the northwest corner, Wang Xiang stood with his squad, eyes locked on the crowd. He had hit level 8. To any normal student, that was lightning fast, but he knew he barely scraped by. Ever since Awakening Day, he viewed Lin Shuyao as the ultimate target. Surpassing her was his only ticket into a top-tier university. His A-grade talent was already one step behind her S-grade. His master plan? Beat her level, then steal my 40-point bonus to lock in his spot as top student. Suddenly, the crowd lost its mind. Lin Shuyao and her squad emerged. Wang Xiang just stared, level 9. All the color drained from his face, his lip twitching. Wow, Goddess Lin, you hit level 9. The undisputed #1 student this year, so overpowered. Every cheer felt like a slap right across Wang Xiang's face. Weaker talent, a lower level, and those bonus points were still out of reach. His grand dreams were slipping right through his fingers. It is all Lu Hao's fault. Wang Xiang hissed out, his eyes turning entirely bloodshot. If I hadn't refused to surrender my points, his older brother wouldn't have gone missing trying to handle me, and he wouldn't be stuck at level 8. His hatred for me had never burned deeper. Meanwhile, Lin Shuyao and her team were frantically scanning the crowd. They were hunting for Yan. They wanted his school, his class, his real identity. I just shoved my way through the packed crowd, frowning at all the noise. All I wanted was to hit the edge of the plaza and vanish. I barely took a few steps when a loud voice yelled from the side, Hao Ge, it is really you. I finally found you. I turned and saw Xiao Daping sprinting toward me. He looked totally relieved, like he just watched a ghost come back to life. Haoja, where did you go last night? He asked, completely breathless. I searched the entire camp for you. I thought something terrible had happened. I wandered a bit too far out, I replied flatly. I just could not make it back in time. Come on, Haoji. Xiao Daping started, shaking his head. A lifestyle worker wandering around outside the safe zone at night. That is just too reckless. Suddenly, his voice completely cut off. His eyes went huge, practically popping right out of his skull. He let out a strangled yelp. Hao Jie, you are level 14. In this world, unless an awakened uses a specific item or skill to mask their status, basic stats are completely public. It only takes a second of mental focus to read them. Xiao Daping's shout went off like a thunderclap in the middle of that crowded plaza. In a split second, a dozen students nearby whipped their heads in my direction. Level 14. The air instantly went freezing cold. It felt like someone had just grabbed the entire crowd by the throat. They stood there, staring at me with bulging eyes. And then that dead silence shattered into a massive roar of disbelief. Holy crap, he really is level 14. How is that even possible? Man, how many monsters did he actually slaughter? This is pure insanity. How did he level up that fast? The shock rippled outward like a heavy stone hitting a still lake. The 100 or so students hanging around the outer edge started shoving their way inward, desperate to see what the crazy commotion was about. I frowned hard. Exposing my abnormal level to thousands of people sounded like a nightmare. I definitely did not need the authorities, or anyone with a shady agenda, digging into my secrets. It wasn't time to go public yet. Glancing at the nearest group, I reached out and lightly tapped a mage standing right next to me. As he gave me a completely confused look, I triggered my ability. My public stats flickered and instantly shifted. Level 6, Class Mage, Talent Level 1, Fire Element Affinity. I had mimicked his information flawlessly. No mental camouflage required. On paper, I literally became him. By that point, 50 or 60 students had already swarmed over. What are you guys screaming about? Who hit level 14? One guy demanded, shoving his way through. Absolutely no way, another added. The highest record in this dungeon over the last decade was level 10. Do you guys even realize what you are saying? The newcomers stared at me, then scanned my public info. They rolled their eyes immediately. Seriously? The guy is a level 6 fire mage. Level 14. You guys have been grinding monsters so long you've completely lost your minds. Seriously, stop making a scene. You're idiots. The first group of students turned beet red. They frantically checked my info again, rubbing their eyes in disbelief. That's not right. I saw level 14 just a second ago. I saw it too. It was definitely 14. The two groups started arguing. The noise spiked. Hundreds of people were staring our way, whispering, pointing. Then a few more voices joined the fray. Wait, Lua, aren't you a lifestyle worker? How did you become a fire mage? What is going on? You're saying he used to be a lifestyle class? Yeah, he's in our class. I know him. That news hit way harder than the level 14 rumor. A lifestyle worker pivoting to a combat class mage, completely unheard of. Thousands of eyes suddenly locked onto me. The testimonies from the school number 3 students were just too consistent to be fake. I kept my head down. I actually had a good reason for mimicking a mage instead of a lifestyle worker. I knew I'd be fighting later on. My real strength would eventually leak out anyway. Better to reveal a partial truth right now to hide the bigger lie later. A little bit of truth is the best way to mask a massive secret. I just hadn't expected a reaction quite this intense. The weight of 1,000 stares made my skin crawl. I tried pushing through the crowd to leave, but the sea of students abruptly parted. Principal Jin and a few other school principals were marching straight toward me. They were asking about a level 14 lifestyle worker becoming a mage. The principals had actually been looking for me. Just a day ago, Li Chung got booted from the dungeon with heavy injuries. He claimed I attacked him using fire skills. Principal Jin checked the records. He confirmed that on Awakening Day, I definitely pulled a gathering-type lifestyle talent. They were all completely baffled. Principal Jin walked up and asked if I was a lifestyle worker with a gathering talent. He heard rumors about me using fire skills and wanted to know the truth. Yes, Principal Jin, I replied calmly. When I awakened 2 days ago, I was indeed a lifestyle worker. I only went into the dungeon to practice my gathering skills. But for some crazy reason, while I was inside, I suddenly triggered a fire talent. I even learned the small fireball skill. I held out my left hand. A small flickering ball of fire condensed right in my palm. Principal Jin completely froze. The other principals behind him just stared, mouths wide open. One of them actually gasped dual talents. He's a dual-class awakener. That shout sent an absolute shockwave through the plaza. The immediate area went deathly quiet. It created this weird void of silence while distant students kept chatting away. Then the realization hit everyone all at once. Principal Jin turned a deep, excited shade of red. He muttered that it really was dual classes. The crowd absolutely erupted. Everyone had heard of dual-class awakeners, but almost nobody had actually seen one. It was a 1 in a million occurrence. These people were the golden children of the era. While others had a single talent in class, they had 2. And 1 plus 1 was always greater than 2. Heaven is finally smiling on school number 3. Principal Jin shouted the words, his voice totally cracking with joy. We produced genuine genius. The rest of the teachers and principals stared at him with pure, unfiltered envy. The students looked at me with a heavy mix of awe and jealousy. Principal Jin rushed forward and grabbed my hands tightly. Good. Very good. But then a freezing voice drifted from behind him. Old Jin, don't get ahead of yourself. Another principal stepped forward, keeping his expression totally neutral. If the kid had 2 A-grade combat talents, he'd equal an S rank or even double S rank. But just look at his actual talents. One is a useless lifestyle class, and the other is barely a level 1 fire affinity. There is absolutely no synergy here at all. The crowd froze. The sheer rarity of a dual awakening had blinded everyone. Principal Jin just stood there, his face entirely stiff. The noise of the plaza and the sheer rush of adrenaline had totally clouded his judgment. He was so insanely hyped about the dual class reveal. He hadn't even bothered to check my detailed stats. Triggered by the other principal's blunt warning, he quickly pulled up my profile. First class, Gatherer, second class, level 1 fire affinity. The wild excitement on his face died instantly. His hand stopped moving. Those 2 classes had absolutely nothing in common. Zero synergy whatsoever. A dual class setup like this? Basically just a level 1 fire mage with a gardening hobby. At most, I was only slightly better than a normal commoner. Principal Jin realized the harsh truth in a heartbeat. He dropped my hands. His expression shifted from pure joy to incredibly awkward embarrassment. The thousands of watching students burst into a massive uproar. Then the brutal mocking started. Someone shouted through laughter, "Are you kidding me? What kind of trash dual class is that?" He nearly gave me a heart attack. a lifestyle gatherer and a bottom-tier level 1 fire talent. I could easily take on 2 of him at once. Other people get dual classes to become literal gods. This guy got a dual class just for the laughs. A few people shot me looks of pure pity. It was like watching some guy hit the jackpot 100 times, only to realize every single winning ticket was worth $5. What an absolute waste. The heavens handed me a literal miracle and I threw it away on total trash. Principal Jian managed to collect himself. He was obviously let down, but he couldn't act like a total snob with the whole school watching. He gave my shoulder a forced pat. Listen, Lu Hao, you might not be some legendary powerhouse, but jumping from a lifestyle worker to a combat class is real progress. Just keep pushing. 100 meters out, Lin Shu Yao and her squad watched it all go down. Your friend is a walking tragedy, Xiao, the priest whispered. He blew a 1 in a million shot. It is not all bad, Zhao's assassin argued. He is a combatant now. Guy should not be greedy. He glanced at Lin Shu Yao. Are you going to congratulate him? She just shook her head, eyes completely dead. I settled the debt between the Lin and Lu families back in that forest. She meant the time she stayed behind to cover my escape. She never glanced my way again. Instead, she scanned the clearing, hunting for that mysterious expert Yan. Slowly, the crowd started thinning out. Everyone was busy flexing their loot or cracking jokes at my expense. To most, I was just the punchline. But way off in the distance, Wang Xiang was glaring at me like he wanted blood. For him, my level 1 fire talent was not some joke. It was a waking nightmare. He and Wang Dia had teamed up to force me out of my university exam bonus points. His excuse to the principal was incredibly simple. Lu Hao is a lifestyle worker who cannot take the test. He is dead weight, so I will take his spot. But now I had a second class, a level 6 combatant. I was fully eligible for those exams. His whole excuse for stealing my points had just vanished into thin air. Wang Shang's face twisted with rage. First, he fell behind Lin Shu Yao in levels. Now his free ticket to a top-tier university was going up in flames. No, it cannot end like this, he muttered, lips turning blue. I cannot lose those points. I want him dead. I am going to kill him. Beside him, Xiao Hong looked up from his phone, face totally lighting up. The forest jammed all comms, but out here they had full signal. Li Chong is not dead, Xiao Hong shouted. He took heavy damage from Lu Hao and just teleported out. He is heading here right now with your third uncle in the investigation bureau. Wang Xiang's eyes went wide. A wicked smile crept across his face before he burst out laughing. Heaven is actually on my side. He sprinted over, shoving a finger right in my face. Lu Hao, you think you can just stroll away after attacking someone inside the zone? I am placing you under arrest for an investigation. His voice boomed, cutting straight through the plaza. Students who were leaving immediately swarmed right back. What is happening now? Wang Xiang is picking another fight. I heard they had beef. Looks like they are ending it today. Wang Xiang's voice dropped. You are not going anywhere. The bureau is already en route. You will answer for your crimes. The whole atmosphere shifted. This was not some petty schoolyard squabble anymore. The investigation bureau meant absolute business. Lin Shu Yao and her squad stopped searching and turned around. That Wang Xiang guy again, Xiao hissed, frowning hard. He is completely obsessed with those bonus points, Suan added, shaking her head. First he traps him in the woods, and now he calls the cops. But if Lu Hao did not actually hurt anybody, why is the bureau showing up? Let us go check it out, Lin Shu Yao said. I refuse to believe Lu Hao would do that. Principal Jian's face paled as he stepped up. Wang Xiang, we have not cleared the facts yet. Why involve the bureau? The kid didn't budge. Attempted murder of a classmate is a straight-up felony. The crowd tightened around us. I simply shook my head and turned to leave. I said, you are not leaving, Wang Xiang roared. His level 8 aura exploded outward, fierce and suffocating. Right beside him, Xiao Hong drew his twin daggers. They boxed me in from both sides as students frantically scrambled back. 2 level 8 experts were about to jump a level 6 fire mage. I stopped in my tracks, turned my head, hit them with an icy glare. I did not want trouble, but I sure wasn't scared of it. If they were hell-bent on dying, I didn't mind giving them the Li Chong treatment, even if it meant showing my hand early. Stop it, all of you. Principal Jian shouted, fighting to regain control. You are all classmates. We can talk about this at school. Principal Jian, you have no say in this today. A frigid voice sliced through the air. The crowd split wide open as 6 figures marched toward us, led straight by Li Chong. He was completely wrapped in bandages. Even after a full day of healing, his skin was still a horrific mess of burns. He looked absolutely pathetic. Flanking him were 3 uniformed bureau officers and 2 enforcers from the Wang family. The students gasped in shock. It really is the bureau. Lu Hao must have actually done something unforgivable. Li Chong and Wang Xiang exchanged a knowing look before Wang Xiang threw me a filthy smirk. Run, Lu Hao. Go on, run. Who cares about your trash dual awakening now? A middle-aged guy from the Wang family marched up. He asked Xiang if he was all right. Third uncle didn't think you'd show up personally. Wang Xiang smiled a sick, twisted look. He muttered that I was dead meat. I studied the man. Third Uncle Wang. The guy was famous for exactly one thing: absolute ruthlessness. He was the one handling all the Wang family's dirty business. Everyone in Sangha lived in total fear of him. He slowly turned toward me, his eyes cold as ice. He asked if I was Lu Hao, then flat out accused me of attacking his nephew inside the secret realm for zero reason. Called me completely vicious. Then he dragged Li Chong forward, and the heavily bandaged kid pointed a shaking finger right at me. The kid screamed that I ambushed him, begging them to lock me away. Then the lead investigator stepped up, a heavy, middle-aged guy named Deputy Director Fong. The man stared at me with blank indifference. Fong announced I was under suspicion for malicious assault. I was being hauled off to the bureau for detention and review. The entire crowd went dead silent. Detention meant I was practically dead meat. Even if I somehow survived their interrogation, I would miss the big exam. My entire future wiped out. Principal Jian was sweating bullets. He stepped right up, asking if they had made a mistake. The principal argued this would completely ruin my chances for the exam. But Fong did not care. He snapped that criminals had zero business taking any test. The investigator warned the principal this was way past school politics. It was an attempted murder case. The principal looked totally crushed. He tried one last time, reminding them I was a martyr's kid. My father and sister gave everything for this country. Fong just let out a cold sneer. He said being a martyr's kid meant I should follow the law even closer. He asked if I really thought my family's status gave me a free pass to do whatever I wanted. The principal fell completely silent. Wang Xiang was beaming with sick pride. In his head, he had already won. Wang Xiang glared at me. His eyes basically said that surviving the forest meant absolutely nothing against his family's massive power. Fong waved a hand, ordering his guys to drag me off. Two high-level combatants started marching my way. The other students just shook their heads in pity. Against the bureau, even a genius was helpless. Then a voice roared to stop. Xiao Daping stepped right in front of me. Xiao demanded to know what right they had to arrest me over one guy's word. Pointing at Li Chong, he laughed and called it a total joke. He accused them of teaming up just to bully a student. Xiao clearly knew exactly who these guys were and what they really wanted. The principal just watched, helpless to intervene. Fong shot a lethal glare his way. Fong asked if Xiao Daping wanted to be arrested for obstructing justice. Xiao barely flinched. The teen reminded them that by law, a suspect walks if someone guarantees their bail. Right then and there, he announced the Xiao family would be my official guarantee. The crowd absolutely erupted. Nobody got why Xiao Daping would ever risk his family's solid reputation for me. Fong practically ground his teeth together. He asked if Xiao's father knew about this little stunt. Xiao shrugged. He was an adult, and his old man listened to him anyway. The bureau guys and the Wang family suddenly looked pretty uneasy. Tangling with the Xiao family was a massive headache they didn't want. Then someone else moved forward. Lin Shuyao stepped right out from the crowd. She watched me standing all alone in the center of that square, totally surrounded by enemies. She remembered exactly how close we used to be. She thought back to the days before my dad and sister died, back when we were inseparable. She remembered the heavy guilt her own father, Lin Shonwan, still carried. Hot tears welled up in her eyes. She completely ignored her own teammates, who were still calling me a coward for running away in the forest. She stepped up with a firm look, announcing the Lin family would also guarantee my bail. The other students were totally stunned. The daughter of the war god was actually backing me. Her friend Zhao Shi tried pulling her back, screaming that I was just a coward who abandoned the team. But Lin Shuyao simply shook her head. She called me her best friend, saying her family owed me a massive debt they could never fully repay. With the Xiao and Lin families teaming up, everything completely flipped. Fong and third Uncle Wang exchanged a hesitant look. Offending two major powerhouse families over a grudge wasn't worth it, especially the Lin family. Lin Shanwen was an absolute legend. The guy had saved the entire city from beast tides multiple times. But just as the heavy pressure started shifting in my favor, a new voice cut through the noise. My homeroom teacher, Wang Defa, shoved his way right into the center. He looked at the officials with a face full of fake, sickening concern. He said he had a duty to speak the absolute truth as my teacher. The guy claimed I was a narrow-minded loner, completely full of hate. Playing the worried mentor, he said, if they let me out on bail, I'd probably go after Li Chong again, or even start attacking the other students. Principal Jian stared at him in pure horror, but Wang Defa kept going. He painted me as a violent, unstable threat to everyone. It was a perfectly calculated, poisonous strike, because if a teacher swore a student was a public danger, bail could be legally denied no matter who stood as their guarantee. Fong's eyes immediately lit up. The deadly trap was snapping shut again. A homeroom teacher's word carried some serious, undeniable weight. Wang Defa flagged me as highly dangerous, so the officials denied my bail right away. They claimed it was to protect Li Chong and the rest. Wang Difa shot a cold glare at Xiao Dai and Lin Shuyao. His voice dripped with pure sarcasm. He called them naive kids easily tricked by obvious lies. He made it clear they lacked the power to protect me. Then he waved his hand, signaling the investigators to step up and make the arrest. Third Uncle Wang and Wang Xiang just watched, completely smug. The surrounding students stood frozen. They figured this was it. The absolute end for a student with twin talents and twin professions. The elite held all the power. They just needed one weak excuse to crush a guy like me. Fairness only matters between equals. In this world, weakness means silence. But right when everyone thought I was finished, a massive voice boomed across the plaza. It hit like rolling thunder. So these kids cannot protect him. But what about me, Lin Shonwan? It echoed from far away, but landed like a physical blow. Everyone flinched and whipped around toward the entrance. A man marched toward us, steps heavy and rhythmic. Looked to be pushing 60, standing rigid as a pine tree. He had Lin Shuyao's sharp features, but his eyes held the absolute freezing cold of a man who spent decades surviving brutal wars. He did not even look aggressive. Yet the very air in the plaza turned to ice as he approached. The war god, someone screamed. The crowd split wide open. People did not just move, they scrambled backward in pure reverence. Lin Shanwan was the absolute strongest fighter in Sanja. A living icon for every single warrior. Political power meant nothing here. None of it mattered if you could not survive a single one of his punches. Vice Director Fong, that arrogant fat official, went sheet white the second he saw him. His head snapped down. He stammered out that he had no idea the war god was involved. Lin Shonwan spoke quietly, but every word dropped like a hammer. He asked if the investigation bureau quit doing its job to play lapdog for someone else, just to target a kid. Fong was sweating actual bullets. He nodded frantically, promising they would pack up and leave immediately now that the war god had spoken. He had no choice but to bow his head. Lin Shonwan was a massive heavyweight on a national scale. A small city vice director was not even worth a casual flick of his wrist. Besides, Fong knew exactly what was going on. He was helping the Wang family frame me. Those cheap excuses might work on regular people, but against a man like Lin Shonwan, they were useless. Get out, Lin Shonwan told him calmly. I will be having a word with your director soon. Fong looked like he just saw a ghost. If he knew Lin Shonwan was backing me, he never would have showed up. Third Uncle Wang looked sick, but he didn't dare make a single sound. Even the head of the Wang family would never challenge the war god. After scaring the officials off, Lin Shonwan slowly turned his gaze toward Third Uncle Wang. He asked if the Wang family had a problem. Third Uncle Wang waved his hands in a panic, claiming it was just one massive misunderstanding. He knew the war god was not being polite. He was mocking them outright. Wang Xiang's eyes went totally bloodshot. He hissed at his uncle, completely unable to accept that his flawless plan to ruin me was collapsing. He wanted my bonus points. He wanted me completely gone. But his uncle snapped at him to shut his mouth. The situation shifted, and they were lucky to walk away alive. Fong and the Wang family turned and hurried off. They looked as pathetic in retreat as they were arrogant when they first showed up. As he walked away, Wang Xiang shot me one final hateful glare. The other students just stood there in shock. The pathetic orphan they had mocked all morning actually had the war god standing right behind him. Some of them started shaking, remembering the insults they threw at me earlier. Principal Jin and the rest of the school officials rushed forward to greet him. Lin Shonwan waved them off politely enough, but then he locked eyes with Principal Jin. He noted that while the principal did a decent job over the years, his management of the teaching staff was seriously lacking. Principal Jin visibly shivered. He shifted his gaze toward Wang Difa, who was desperately trying to hide behind the crowd. The principal roared at him, screaming about lies and distorted truth. Suddenly, the principal's story completely flipped. Now I was this perfect model student, kind, hard-working, and beloved by absolutely everyone. He told Wang Dafa the school would be reviewing his teaching credentials effectively immediately. Wang Dafa went pale as a sheet. He played the loyal pawn for the Wang family, and they dumped him without a single backward glance. Once the trash was finally cleared out, Lin Shonwan turned to look at me. I just looked right back. Totally blank expression. From the very second the investigators arrived, I hadn't spoken a single word in my own defense. I just watched them all like a spectator in the stands. In my head, I was not thinking about bail. I was just calculating the absolute best time to strike, trying to decide whether to kill them right here in the plaza or wait until we hit the road. I knew the Bureau and the Wang family were two sides of the same coin. You just cannot reason with people like that. They thought I was some helpless kid with two useless professions. In reality, I was a hidden powerhouse. I could have broken out on my own if I had to. Could have vanished into the mountains. Lived as a ghost. Lin Shanchuan asked if I was all right. The students around us watched with pure envy. They figured I was the luckiest guy alive to have such a powerful backer. I sure didn't feel lucky. I stared at the exact man who abandoned my father and brother to their deaths. Lin Shanchuan, I told him, my voice totally cold and flat. Do not think I am thanking you for this. I didn't need your help. The plaza went completely dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. Students, teachers, even the principals were just frozen in shock. Nobody talked to the war god like that. Without him, I'd be rotting in a cell. Lin Shuyao was the first to snap. She screamed at me, asking how I could be so disrespectful after he just saved me. She demanded I thank him right then. Lin Shanchuan simply raised a hand, silencing his daughter. He didn't look angry at all. In fact, he just gave me a faint, calm smile. Lin Shanchuan gave me a heavy, meaningful look. There was a flicker of what looked almost like relief or maybe even pride right in his eyes. He told me I had done well. Lin Shuyao stood beside him, her eyes wide with absolute confusion. She asked him what was wrong, but he just looked down at her with this doting affection. He noticed she hit level 9 in the novice realm. She beamed with pride, bragging that she had actually taken first place. Lin Shanchuan glanced at me one last time before taking his daughter's hand. He told her it was time to go home. I didn't wait around. I turned and shoved my way through the crowd toward the exit. Pace was fast. Mind was strangely calm. The Lin family owed me. What Lin Shanchuan did today didn't wipe the slate clean for what happened to my father and my brother. I didn't need his explanations, and I certainly didn't want his charity. I just needed to get so much stronger. I needed to reach a point where I could demand my own answers. That day taught me one thing. I couldn't rely on anyone else. I was the only one I could trust. Wait for me, Xiao Dafeng shouted, running hard to catch up. He looked completely breathless and immediately started apologizing to me. He felt pretty guilty for accidentally shouting out my level back at the portal, causing all that trouble with the investigators. I waved him off. Not his fault. Actually, I thanked him for standing up for me. It was rare to find a classmate willing to risk their own neck like that. Whatever his motives were, I noted the favor. He just laughed it off, saying we were old seatmates, and he already knew Li Chong was a total scumbag. Then he got dead serious, asked what I planned to do next. The main university exams were still a while away, and the school was organizing repeat runs of the Misty Forest. I just shook my head. I wasn't going back there. I needed higher-level dungeons. Xiao Daping's eyes lit up. He said his family had plenty of scrolls, dark forests, bloodbone ruins, frost canyons. He offered to take me to his place to pick out whatever I wanted. I stopped walking and looked him straight in the eye, asked what he wanted in return. Nobody is just nice for absolutely no reason. He rubbed his hands together, grinning wide. Admitted he couldn't hide a thing from me. He just wanted me to carry him while I cleared those dungeons. I gave him a very dry look. Reminded him I was just a level 6 lifestyle worker. What could I possibly carry him through? He didn't seem worried at all. Said he could just hire high-level experts to fill the team. I nodded slowly and agreed. Then a red convertible screeched to a halt right before us. The driver was a girl around 16 or 17. She had wine-red hair and heavy dark eyeliner that made her eyes look dead cold, wearing a black crop top and tight leather pants showing off her long legs. She looked rebellious, completely unimpressed by the entire world. Xiao Daping opened the door and told me to get in. He introduced her as his sister Xiao Shaoling, though. Most people called her Master Xiao. She glanced at me, frowned slightly, and didn't say a single word. The second we sat down, she floored it. The car launched like a rocket, pinning me back with a violent surge of G-force. The howling wind meant I could barely breathe. This wasn't driving, it was low-altitude flight. Gripped the handle until my knuckles turned white. The speedometer blurred past 200, then 300 kilometers per hour. Xiao Shaoling steered with one hand, casually holding a cigarette in the other, a tiny smirk playing on her lips. She wove through traffic like a red streak of lightning. With a final bone-jarring screech of tires, she slammed the brakes outside a massive golden manor. "Little trashes," she muttered, hopping straight out of the car without even looking back. My face was totally pale, and my stomach was doing wild somersaults. I had never been in a car driven quite that aggressively before. Xiao Daping practically crawled out after me, his legs visibly shaking, muttered under his breath that he never should have called her to pick us up. I just stared right back and called his sister completely insane. He awkwardly rubbed his hands together, leading me inside. He explained how Shaoling was an absolute prodigy. Even before her class awakening, she was crafting high-quality gear. Her talent alone turned the Xiao family from a tiny workshop into a massive powerhouse. Now she had awakened an S-rank talent, heart of the Divine Smith. Every major faction wanted her. Gear in this world ranged from common all the way to mythic. Crafting exquisite items was huge. An excellent rank usually capped most master smiths. That was when it hit me. She wasn't just some bratty teenager, she was a genius. I didn't own a single piece of equipment. I was totally broke, and low-level gear became useless way too fast anyway. Anyway, Daping sprinted upstairs for the scrolls. That left me in the backyard, standing near some detached storage shed. The place was packed with junk. Mostly heaps of discarded ore. Hundreds of stones sitting there in dull shades of gray, red, and yellow. I picked up a fist-sized chunk of dark red rock. Immediately recognized it as a crimson vein stone. Someone had already refined it, but it was loaded with impurities. Basically useless to any decent smith. Up until now, I had only extracted stats from beasts and plants, never minerals. An idea clicked and I fired up endless extraction. The system recognized the ore and started reverse extracting the waste. A sudden rush of excitement hit me, but it faded fast. My energy bar absolutely tanked. Even with my high spirit stats, I was totally drained in under 2 seconds. Brutally expensive. I burned through my resources, restored my energy, and kept pushing. If I could actually refine ore, my path to power would crack wide open. Minerals were worth way more than simple herbs. Black mist hissed out of the rock like falling dust. The stone shifted from a lifeless red to a brilliant glowing crimson. It shrank down but took on this gorgeous translucent shine. Just then, Daping clattered downstairs holding a stack of scrolls. Xiaoling wandered out of another room looking totally bored. She took one glance at his hands and started mocking him. She noticed he grabbed level 20 and 30 scrolls. Then she burst out laughing. 2 level 6 noobs, surviving those? Daping immediately snapped back. He told her she was a lifestyle worker who knew nothing about real combat. A massive spendthrift, he called her. Straight at the carts of discarded ore hauling out of her room. He shouted that she just blew over 1,000,000 credits on that scrap. Xiaoling rolled her eyes. He didn't get it. Crafting demanded high-purity materials. Out of 1,000,000 credits in raw rock, she only squeezed out 2 tiny pieces at 80% purity. Her talent was completely chained down by the garbage materials she had to use. I looked down at the glowing, purified rock in my hand. It hit me I had exactly what she needed. Her words echoed again, held back by the garbage purity of her supplies. I just stared at the little stone resting right in my palm. The extraction was a massive success. I had stripped every last impurity straight out of that red tech stone. What used to be a jagged rock was now the size of my thumb. It glowed a deep, rich crimson. Fine veins pulsed across the surface like leaf patterns, radiating a gentle warmth. It felt like a completely different object. Right then, I realized my extraction skill worked very differently on minerals. With beasts and plants, I stripped away their life and power. But with ore, I just deleted the waste. This cracked open a massive new world of possibilities. Still, this tiny little piece wasn't enough to do much with quite yet. I casually tossed the high-purity gem back onto the scrap pile and turned around. Daping came sprinting toward me, gripping his scrolls. Ever since the Great Cataclysm, humanity had been fighting through dungeons and secret realms. They were basically fragments of lost civilizations, scattered across our reality. Dungeons themselves were totally private. Every team got a private space to fight. But secret realms were public channels. Everyone clashed in the exact same area, bleeding for resources that constantly grew and evolved. The scrolls Daping held were the literal keys to get inside. He panted, "Brother, look what I found." He flashed the scrolls. "We can finally make our big move. Perfect for us," he promised. I glanced down at the titles. Thistle Woodlands. Level 5 to 10 dungeons. I didn't even hesitate. I swiped them right out of his hands and tossed them aside. Way too low. Daping just stared at me, completely lost. "Too low?" he asked. "We are only level 6. These monsters hit harder than the ones in the novice zone." I ignored him, flipping through the rest of the stack. My goal was clear. First, I needed an ore-producing dungeon to grind out some serious cash. Second, since my fire talent was my absolute best asset, I had to find a way to boost it even higher. Finally, I paused at one specific scroll. Tapping the paper, I told him we are doing this one tomorrow. The Mystic Mine is a level 20 dungeon. Daping looked like his eyes were about to explode. "Are you insane? Just the two of us at level 6? That place is packed with elites and bosses." I stood up. "Just bring the scrolls. We can figure the rest out later. I am heading home." Daping looked genuinely stressed. He begged me to crash there tonight. "Wangshang is watching you," he warned. "Going back alone is way too risky." I told him it was totally fine. "See you at the association tomorrow." Walking away, I had absolutely no clue the internet was melting down. On every single school forum across Sanzhou, one post was pinned right at the very top. "Urgent manhunt for Yan, the mysterious powerhouse who rescued goddess Lin Shu Yao." The post broke down how a total mystery named Yan crashed the level 9 zone, instantly one-shotting a level 10 elite Iron Ride Bear to save Shu Yao and her team. Rumors claimed he was level 13 and wiped out the entire forest totally solo. Students were absolutely losing their minds over it. Nobody bought that a student could hit level 13 this fast. Some guessed he was a hidden genius from a top-tier family. Others called it straight-up fake. Meanwhile, deep inside the Wang family mansion, a sharp, violent crack echoed through the main hall. Wang Tianba, the head of the clan, had just brutally backhanded his son, Wang Shi, right across the jaw. Useless, he hissed. His eyes were dead and sharp like a hunting predator. Your level is lagging behind the rest, and you completely blew the bonus points. I raise wolves, not sheep. His voice shaking with pure rage. This is all Lu Hao's fault. If he had not refused to hand over his points, and if Li Chong had not gotten injured, I would be ranked number 1. Then why did you not kill him in the forest? Wang Tianba growled. I do not care about the process. Only the hesitate. If you cannot even crush a simple lifestyle worker, how can I hand you this family empire? Wang Xiang's eyes went totally bloodshot. Next time I see him, he dies. I swear it. Wang Tianba stared at his son with absolute frost. The Wang family started in the underworld. People are starting to forget that fact. If you are not ranked first by the time the final exams kick off, you are cut off entirely. Across town, the Lin family sat down for dinner. Shu Yao was updating her father, Lin Shanchuan, all about the trial run. When she brought me up, her face screamed disappointment. Zero combat power is one thing, but ditching friends at the first sign of danger? That is a real character flaw, she said, sounding strangely relieved. I always felt like our family owed him something. But after today, that debt is fully paid. Then her tone completely flipped when she brought up Yan. Her eyes lit up with this heavy mix of awe and sadness. Dad, he was incredible. His sheer speed, those brutal fire skills, he was level 13. Honestly, if not for him, we would probably be dead. But once we left the portal, he just vanished. I am ranked first right now, but I know it is a lie. I cannot stop wondering how a deadbeat like Lu Hao and a hero like Yan can be so completely different. Lin Shanchuan took a slow sip of his tea, smiling faintly. Maybe the person you are looking for is right in front of you. Shu Yao froze, staring at him. Dad, what do you mean? Lin Shanchuan refused to explain any further. He just took another sip of tea, asking how many days were left until the big university entrance exam. He wanted to know if Shu Yao planned to keep grinding the safe novice zones with her school, or risk heading out into the wild dungeons. Shu Yao's eyes sparked with a sudden fire. She told him she had already hashed it out with Su Wan and the rest of the crew. They were hitting the wild dungeons. She was completely convinced that a massive powerhouse like Yan would absolutely be grinding out there. She needed to find him. After dinner, Lin Shanchuan quietly slipped into his study alone. He unlocked a bottom drawer, pulling out a faded, yellowing photograph. It showed 3 people standing right in front of a strange, eerie portal. If I had been in that room, I would have recognized them in a heartbeat. Beside a much younger Lin Shanchuan stood my father, Lu Yuan, and my sister Luing. He just stared at the picture for a long time, softly whispering my father's name. He admitted thinking the entire burden of their unfinished business would fall squarely onto Shu Yao's shoulders, especially once he heard that I had only awakened a pathetic lifestyle talent. But today shifted everything. He finally realized I had played the whole world. His face twisted in disbelief. If I actually possessed the perfect extraction talent, one of the legendary 36 perfect professions, then the real implications were absolutely terrifying. It meant I could potentially plunder and copy every single other perfect talent in existence. If that were really true, I was not just some kid. I was the chosen one of the entire talent realm. Then a heavy sigh. He muttered that if I were just a regular worker, I might have lived a totally peaceful life. But in that hidden place, even the absolute strongest faced certain death. Suddenly he doubled over, hacking in a violent coughing fit. When he finally looked up, a thick trail of eerie, blackish-red blood leaked from his lips. He stared out the dark window, quietly wondering exactly how much time he had left. He needed me to get strong, and he needed it to happen fast. Meanwhile, I was already heading back to Old Wu's workshop. The second I walked through the door, he rushed over, frantically checking me for injuries. He had heard the Wang family's investigation bureau was already hunting me down. I told him the raw truth, how Wang Xiang and Wang Difa tried to ruthlessly blackmail me into handing over my extra credit points. Old Wu slammed his hand on the table. He was absolutely furious. He growled that the Wangs were only acting this bold because my father and sister were gone. He reminded me my father was the only reason he could even open this shop, and he swore to protect me, even if it cost him his own life. I appreciated the sentiment, but we had business to handle. I pulled out a bottle of spirit soul liquid I had extracted back in the forest. Old Wu took it, popped the stopper, froze, his voice shook. Perfect purity. He actually thought I was just out picking weeds, but this was high-tier alchemy material. A standard bottle went for 400, he said, but for this quality, he would give me 700. I just nodded and waved my hand. Dozens of bottles materialized on the table, glowing with a lush green light. Exactly 647 bottles of grade 1 liquid, plus 5 from grade 2 herbs. Old Wu dropped his jaw. He asked if I had literally stripped the entire hidden realm bare. I just laughed. Told him I found a cave packed with the stuff. Old Wu wanted every single drop, but admitted it was way too much for him to handle alone. He wanted to introduce me to President Lu Hao of the Crow Group. They were a massive pharmaceutical giant based out of the capital. Right now, they were fighting a shadow war with the Wang family over the Sangha market. He looked me dead in the eye to explain the stakes. High-quality liquid was not just about money anymore. If the Crow Group got these, they could create new medicines to completely crush the Wangs. If the Wangs got them, they would monopolize absolutely everything. Medicine, healing, and resources. In this city, I had to pick a side. He warned me that if word got out about what I could do, every major power in the country would be knocking at my door by morning. It was a massive opportunity, but also a potential death warrant. I stayed quiet for a second, then finally nodded. I told him to set up the meeting for tomorrow night. When I left that shop, I had another 800,000 in my pocket. Between the liquid and the monster drops I had scavenged, my wealth was climbing fast. I had nearly 2 million now, more than enough to fund my next big move. I just had to hope the Crow Group was actually trustworthy. In this chaotic era, the only way to stay alive was getting strong as fast as humanly possible. Next morning, I hit the professional association. It was a massive gray building with vaulted ceilings and glowing crystals. The lobby was totally packed with warriors and mages heading toward the teleportation gates. "Brother Hao, over here." Xiao Depang was waving frantically from over by a pillar. He fired off a team invite and I quickly accepted it. I noticed 3 other people standing right beside him, 2 guys and 1 woman. Xiao Depang introduced them as experts he had hired to help clear a tough dungeon called the Mysterious Mine. The leader was a woman in her early 20s named Fong Yan. She was a high-level spear wielder, an agility-based fighter. She checked out my basic stats and immediately frowned. She asked Xiao Depang why he was bringing a low-level worker into a dungeon this insanely difficult. She complained that I would drag down their experience gain, and that they would waste energy protecting me. Behind her, a massive tank of a guy with bulging muscles grunted in total agreement. They clearly saw me as a burden. They had no idea I was the strongest person in that room. The big guy with the bulging muscles grunted again, his voice sounding like gravel. "Look, Boss Xiao, in a place like the Mysterious Mine, we can only guarantee your safety. We definitely cannot protect 2 of you." The third member was a scrawny guy gripping a wooden staff, a wind mage. He just sneered at me. "Dragging along 1 newbie is hard enough. Bringing 2 is not a dungeon run. It is a suicide mission." Xiao Depang saw the tension rising and immediately started sweating. He let out an awkward laugh, trying to smooth things over. "Captain Fong, how about this? I will add another 200,000 to the payout." Fong Yan blinked. She bit her lip, raw greed winning out over her hesitation. "Fine, if the money is right, we will do our best. But let us be totally clear, we are only running this on normal difficulty." I already knew the breakdown. Dungeons had 4 tiers: normal, hard, nightmare, and hell. On normal, the monsters were pretty basic. On hard, their stats doubled, but so did the experience drops. Nightmare tripled everything, and hell basically quadrupled it. A level 20 monster in hell tier was basically as strong as a level 50 boss, and the Mysterious Mine barred anyone over level 20 from even entering. Almost nobody ever cleared Nightmare, and Hell mode was considered straight up impossible. Xiao Depang leaned in and quietly whispered to me, rubbing his hands together. "Brother Hao, I am so sorry I hired them without asking you first. But the monsters in there range from level 16 to 21. Without these guys, we would be dead the second we stepped inside. Captain Fong knows the layout pretty well. Normal mode should be completely safe." I just looked at the floor, quietly weighing my options. If I were actually a level 6 worker, his plan would have been absolutely perfect. It was both careful and incredibly logical. Part of me considered just tagging along, hanging in the back, and scavenging the monster corpses while they did all the heavy lifting. Honestly, it wasn't a bad way to kill an afternoon. A level 6 loser actually daring to show up at a field dungeon. A cold, familiar voice cut through the lobby. I looked up. Wang Xiang was marching straight toward us. Xiao Hong trailed behind him, along with 3 strangers radiating absolute power. The Wang family crest sat proudly on their chests. These guys were high-level protectors. Wang Xiang locked eyes with me. His hand rested on the hilt of his heavy broadsword, his gaze burning with pure hatred. I was the reason he lost those bonus points. The reason his father slapped him across the face and called him a weakling. If we were anywhere else but inside the professional association building, he probably would have tried to kill me on the spot. He glanced at Xiao Depang, then at Fong Yan and her team. His expression turned grim. He figured I was just trying to leech off the Xiao family to level up. Same exact thing he was doing with his family's experts. "Listen up," Wang Xiang shouted. His voice echoed through the massive hall and everyone froze. "This kid is Lu Hao. He stole my points and attacked my teammates. So I am putting the word out right now. Anyone who helps this brat in a field dungeon becomes an enemy of the Wang family. He pointed a finger right at my face. Help him, and you will never buy another potion from us again. We will hunt you down no matter where you hide in Sanzhou. The atmosphere in the lobby changed instantly. People started whispering. Eyes darted between me and the heavy Wang family guards. Who is that kid? Why is he messing with the Wangs? He looks like a literal high schooler. He is totally finished. You cannot survive in this city on a Wang family blacklist. Xiao Depang stepped forward, face red with absolute fury. Wang Shang, don't you think you are taking this too far? We were classmates for 3 years. All because you failed to steal his points? Xiao Dapang, you have crossed me one too many times. Wang Shang snapped back. Keep it up, and my family will deal with yours next. He turned his gaze toward Fong Yan and her squad. Did you hear what I said? Suddenly, 2 chimes rang in my ear. A notification popped up. Shi and Lu Hao had left the party. Xiao had also left. The big tank and the wind mage did not even hesitate. They marched straight over to Wang Xiang and bowed their heads. We are so sorry, young Master Wang, the tank pleaded. We had no idea he had a grudge with you. We already left his team. We will not get in your way exactly, the mage added, throwing me a look of pure disgust. I did not want to carry these 2 losers anyway. We will do exactly what you say. Fong Yan stood frozen, her face completely pale. The Wang family is powerful, but this is straight-up bullying, she muttered. She was in a really tough spot. She needed that money. Her father was sick. Everyone knew she took dangerous freelancer jobs just to keep the lights on. This 50,000 bonus was supposed to be easy money. Now it was a death sentence for her career. Fong Yan, have you completely lost your mind? One of the Wang family protectors growled. He stepped toward her. You actually want to defy us? We could crush a freelancer like you with a single finger. She looked completely trapped. Her teammates had already betrayed her. If she stayed with us now, the Wangs would destroy her entire family. But if she bailed, she would look like a total coward. Xiao Depang, make me the leader, I said quietly. He did not ask questions. He transferred leadership to me right away. I tapped the glowing screen. System notification, you have kicked Fong Yan from the party. Fong Yan's face flushed bright red. She looked at me, part of her clearly feeling insulted, but I saw overwhelming relief hiding in her eyes. Nobody wanted to be an enemy of the Wang family. Wang Shang smirked, looking like he had already won. Without a team, I could not enter the dungeon. The school's second trial started in just 3 days. If he kept me locked out of the field dungeons until then, I would not gain a single level. I would be stuck at level 6 while everyone else pulled ahead. I will not say it again, Wang Xiang announced to the quiet crowd. His voice dripped with arrogant pride. Tell your friends. If the Wang family finds out anyone is partying up with these 2, you are completely done. The crowd quickly chimed in, desperate to please the powerful heir. Do not worry, young Master Wang. We will not help them. Yeah, they are on their own. I stood there listening to the insults, my expression completely blank. They honestly thought they were locking me out. They had no idea I was just waiting for the deadweight to leave. We cannot afford to offend the Wang family just for a little mission money. The other freelancers muttered as they backed away. Do not worry, young Master Wang. We will spread the word throughout the association. Nobody will dare take a job from these 2. Xiao Daping watched the crowd leave, his face totally pale with anxiety. Brother Hao, he whispered, stepping much closer. I just raised a hand to silence him. I was not worried at all. Wang Xiang looked down at us with a cold, mocking sneer. Lu Hao, do not think the Xiao family can actually protect you. You crossed me, and now there is no place for you in Sanzhou. This is only the beginning. With a dramatic flourish of his expensive cape, he led his 4 teammates straight toward a shimmering portal. A moment later, the massive overhead display updated. System alert. Wang Xiang's party has entered the secret mine. Difficulty set to hard. The crowd erupted in hushed whispers. Just like you would expect from the Wang family heir, straight into a level 20 dungeon on hard mode. I mean, look at their gear. Both protectors are wearing full sets of excellent grade equipment. Just one of those guys is easily worth 3 regular players. If they grind hard mode for 5 days straight, Wang Xiang will hit a level nobody else in this city can even touch. A few people in the crowd turned my way, eyes full of pity. Or just plain mockery. Who does this kid think he is, offending the Wangs? That family never forgets a grudge. Without a solid party, he will not even clear a level 10 dungeon. Total death sentence for his career. Someone else muttered. Leveling up will be the least of his problems. He will not be able to buy a single potion or land one contract anywhere in this city. Fong Yin stood nearby, head completely bowed in shame. She walked to Xiao Doping, her voice shaking. I am sorry, Boss Xiao. I will return the 200,000 deposit immediately. I know this is wrong, but I just cannot fight the Wangs. Doping sighed and waved her away. Forget it. You are a freelancer. You cannot handle their pressure. Then he turned to me, voice heavy with doubt. What now, brother? How? With the Wong family blocking us, nobody is going to join our party. And if I do find someone, they will either be way too weak or too high level to enter. We need nobody else, I said calmly. Let's go. My eyes were dead cold. Wang Xiang had already bullied me in school alongside our teacher, Wang Dea. Now he was using his family wealth to absolutely crush me. He had not actually hurt me yet, but I was keeping a mental tally. One day, I would settle that debt in full. I started walking straight toward the teleport array. Doping followed like a lost puppy, totally confused but loyal. We warped 20 miles northwest of Tonga. The air was incredibly heavy, thick with the scent of pine and damp earth. A few city guards stood watch, hands resting firmly on their weapons to keep wild beasts away. Brother, how? We do not even have a carry. Doping stammered out, staring at the dark entrance to the secret mine. Why are we still standing here? Just give me the scroll, I said. Doping handed it right over. I gripped the parchment and ripped it cleanly down the middle. The scroll instantly dissolved into 2 streaks of light. One shot into the void, tearing open a rippling portal that shimmered like water. The other light wrapped tightly around us like a protective cocoon. A glowing system screen popped up right in front of me. Select difficulty normal. Hard. Nightmare. Hell, I did not hesitate. Tap the bottom option. Difficulty hell. Before Doping could even process what I just did, the light flared up. We were sucked straight into the abyss. Back at the association hall, the drama ended. The crowd was starting to clear out, heading back to their daily grind. Then a sudden scream absolutely shattered the quiet. Wait, look at the board! Everyone stopped dead in their tracks. The real-time feedback screen was scrolling with brand new data. What the hell? Those 2 kids really just entered the secret mine on nightmare difficulty. The hall went dead silent for a heartbeat, then instantly exploded into chaos. Are they insane? The monsters in there start at level 16. And on nightmare mode, those stats quadruple. It is basically fighting level 50 monsters. They are only level 6. One solid hit from a mob, and they are nothing but red mist. Fong Yin was halfway out the door when she heard the shouting. Her heart absolutely sank. A massive surge of guilt hit her, thinking they had misclicked the difficulty out of pure desperation, just because she bailed. But then she hesitated. Xiao Doping was a rich heir. He definitely was not the suicidal type. And as for Lua, even though she only met him today, he seemed too steady, too calm to be a fool. Why would they pick a difficulty that even the top guilds avoided? Last year, the Prince's Guild sent 5 level 20 elites into that exact nightmare mode. They were completely slaughtered. My former teammates laughed loudly. The Wong family really drove them crazy. 2 level 6 players in a nightmare dungeon? They are just flies waiting to be swatted. They will come running back in under a minute, if they even survive long enough to find the exit. Meanwhile, inside the dungeon, the world was completely different. The air was freezing cold. It smelled of sulfur and wet stone. We stood right in front of a massive rusted iron gate, leading straight into a pitch-black tunnel. The passage was 20 meters wide and 5 meters high, stretching deep into the earth where no light could ever reach. I stared into the darkness and tightened my grip. The real hunt was finally about to begin. Dim yellow mining lamps hung every 10 meters along the jagged rock walls, casting a weak, flickering glow across the tunnel. The ground itself was completely littered with shattered ore and rotting wooden supports. The air felt incredibly heavy, damp, and cold. It carried this sickening mix of rust, rotting meat, and the sharp metallic tang of underground soil. From deep within the darkness, I picked up a faint rhythmic sound. Clink, clink, clink. Something was striking the rock walls with a pickaxe. Xiao Doping stood totally frozen, his face bone white. His lips trembled as he looked right at me. Do you have any idea what you just did? His voice cracked completely. This is the nightmare version of a level 20 secret mine. The color completely drained from his skin. He suddenly lunged forward, grabbing my right arm tightly with both hands. My God. We have to leave right now. If we wait any longer, it will be too late. He was full-on panicking. He definitely regretted letting me hold the teleportation scroll. Earlier, he hired those 3 experts just to attempt normal difficulty, planning to take it nice and slow. If we never try, how will we know if it works? I said it calmly. I really thought you made a mistake. Xiao Doping just stammered. He stared at me like I was insane. You actually entered this difficulty on purpose. I shook him off and stepped right through the entrance gate, headed straight into the depths of the mine. Xiao Doping looked back at the portal, then at my retreating figure. He stomped his foot in total frustration. Gritting his teeth, he ran to catch up. Master Lu, are you really going in? He hissed that this is a nightmare zone. Even a full 5-man squad of level 20s wouldn't dare come down here. You cannot just throw your life away over the Wong family's pressure. Suddenly, a dark shadow appeared ahead. It was a small, hunched figure, a gnome. It was hacking at the wall with a shovel, muttering to itself. Not enough. Need to dig deeper. The Lord wants more ore. When will I ever finish? I just want to go home. The creature sensed us and stopped, turning its head slowly. Zero pupils in those hollow sockets. Just two flickering sparks of eerie green light. The moment their eyes met, Xiao Depang gasped, clutching his chest like an iron vice had crushed his heart. A level 16 death miner. On nightmare difficulty, its stats rivaled a level 50 monster. The creature shrieked and charged right at us, tattered clothes fluttering wildly. Despite looking completely withered, it moved incredibly fast. In less than 20 seconds, it closed the gap to 50 meters. Terrifying pressure rolled off the thing like a tidal wave. Xiao Depang's legs turned to lead. "It is over," he whimpered. "We cannot even run back to the exit in time." In the very next heartbeat, his eyes nearly popped out of his head. I launched myself forward like a human projectile. My body blurred into a phantom, moving even faster than the monster itself. As I sprinted, a bright red light flashed in my hand. A massive fireball exploded against the miner's chest with a deafening roar. Sparks flew everywhere. I reached him before the smoke even cleared and threw a heavy punch. A dull thud echoed as the miner was sent flying into the air. I did not stop. Another flash of red light followed instantly. A second bursting fireball hit him mid-air. Before he could even touch the ground, I stepped forward and delivered one final blow, slamming him hard against the cavern wall. A notification flashed on our party interface. "Your team killed a gnome miner. You gained 512 experience points." A bright glow surrounded Xiao Depang. He had leveled up to level 7. He just stood there with his mouth wide open, looking at me like he had seen a ghost. To be fair, this was a level 16 monster buffed by nightmare difficulty. But I was not a normal level 6. I was level 14. My strength, agility, spirit, and constitution were all several times higher than average. My spirit alone hit 123 points. Combined with my tier 2 skills and high agility, failing to kill a basic mob would have been the real joke here. I reached my hand over the corpse. Endless extraction triggered. Strength +2. Red-veined iron ore +1. I looked at the ore in my hand. It was the size of a fist, covered in dark red rust-like patterns, and felt incredibly hard. It was pretty common material for forging low-level gear, but it sold well. And the more money I made, the faster I could grow. Xiao Depang rushed over, staring at me like he did not even recognize me. "Am I dreaming? You just one-shot that thing." He suddenly scrambled back a few steps, his eyes practically bulging. "You really are level 14. My God, it is true." Yesterday when we left the novice zone, he was the first to see my true level before I masked it. He had been totally confused ever since. But now that I gained experience, my disguise flickered. The truth was out there. "How did you do it?" he whispered. "The record for the Misty Plains has been level 10 for a decade." "Stop complaining," I said, coldly cutting him off. "We are here to clear a dungeon, not to listen to you chatter all day." I kept moving. A short distance away, 4 more miners with glowing green eyes stood grouped together. They spotted us at once. "Oh no. We pulled 4," Xiao Depang yelled. "Fall back now, it is too many." But before he could even finish his sentence, fireballs began forming in my left hand. I fired them off in rapid succession. Each fireball hit a target, and the splashing flames completely engulfed the others. Explosion after explosion violently rocked the tunnel. Before the 4 monsters could get within 20 meters of us, they collapsed into heaps of bone and rags. 4 notifications flashed. "Your team killed a death miner. 512 experience gained." My God, they are dead. That is over 2,000 experience instantly. Xiao Depang was shaking with pure excitement. "I am about to level up again." I nodded satisfied. A normal level 16 mob gave about 160 experience. The nightmare multiplier made it 640. Even after splitting some with Xiao Depang, the gains were truly massive. I walked up to the 4 corpses and triggered endless extraction again. Past the 8 strength points and 4 chunks of ore, a fresh alert chimed. Jing. Extraction triggered a critical hit. You obtained a Tier 2 skill detection. It lets the user read basic data on minerals or any living targets. Excitement flared in my chest. A Tier 2 skill, and actually a useful one. Plus, I already had enhanced eyesight. Stacking them together would make this new ability absolute nightmare fuel. I stared deeper into the mine, hungry for more. These miners had spent years buried alive in these suffocating, pitch-black tunnels. They burned their whole lives digging ore, eventually developing this almost supernatural radar for minerals. Time to test my new trick. I locked onto one of the dead bodies and fired up detection. A glowing stat screen flashed right in front of me. Death Miner, level 16, Nightmare Enhanced. The stats were brutal. 250 strength, 60 agility, 30 spirit, 90 physique. It carried a skill called Mining Pick Strike, and the description painted a seriously grim picture. Cursed to repeat their endless grind even in death. These guys were running on pure rage against any trespasser. I just smirked. The ability easily beat my expectations. Mapping out attacks was a breeze. That strength stat was completely unhinged, though. At 250, a single hit would probably snap Xiao Depang right in half. Luckily, their physique was garbage in comparison. As long as I kept raining down fireballs, I could easily vaporize the horde before they even grazed my clothes. It really hit me then just how crucial my fire magic was. After clearing this mine, I needed a fire dungeon to push my talents further. Man, I feel terrible, Xiao, Depang muttered quietly from right behind me. He looked pretty guilty watching his experience bar completely skyrocket while I did everything. He whined about just standing there leeching points, said he felt like a total parasite. Earlier, he dropped 70,000 credits on a team that barely got him 30% of this haul. Growing up as a businessman's kid, he knew better than anyone free lunches just do not exist. He was terrified I'd ditch him if he stayed useless. Who says you're useless? I shot back, turning around. You're a ranger, right? Tell me your skills. He stammered out that he had 2 Tier 1s rapid fire for his crossbow and an evasion slide for mobility. Perfect, I told him as a plan clicked into place. I need you running point to pull the mobs. Drag them back here in one massive wave. Killing them individually is way too slow. Xiao Depang looked like his eyes might actually pop out of his skull. How? I am a level 7 glass cannon. You seriously want me sprinting into a pack of level 16 nightmare monsters? That is actual suicide. Relax, I patted his shoulder. Rangers were literally born for pulling mobs, so I believe in you. Please no, he whimpered back. I knew exactly what he was thinking. That I was some cold-blooded tactician. He really wasn't wrong. Just think about it, I countered. Follow my lead and I guarantee you outlevel Wang Xiang. You could end up the second highest ranked student in all of Tongha. You will coast into a top martial arts university. You will finally be a VIP in those fancy high-end clubs you frequent. Besides, 0 fighting required. Just throw something to get their attention and run back. Honestly, it is as easy as breathing. My expression went dead cold. But if you cannot even handle a baby task like this, I am kicking you from the party. 10 minutes later, those dark underground tunnels echoed with the absolute most desperate screaming. Help me. Please. Save me. I am going to die. Xiao Depang was sprinting for his literal life. A dozen dead miners with glowing green eyes were right on his heels. If he didn't have that evasion slide, a rusty pickaxe would have split his skull wide open minutes ago. I just watched, completely calm. I was way too busy prying a palm-sized chunk of ore out of the wall. It shimmered like cracked ice under my lamp frost copper ore, a super rare material used to forge agility-based armor. I tucked it safely away, waited for the exact right moment, and finally turned around. Here they come, I whispered, raising my left hand. Whoosh! Whoosh! Fireballs screamed right past Xiao Dapang's head, slamming into the monster crowd with terrifying pinpoint accuracy. Treating my Tier 2 skills like basic attacks, I unleashed an endless barrage like a walking rocket launcher. Any other mage would be sweating buckets over their mana bar, nervously calculating every single drop of energy. If Lin Shuyao saw me pulling this off, her jaw would practically hit the floor. Being able to instantly replenish mana didn't just give me crazy endurance. It multiplied my raw combat power tenfold. By the time a totally pale, gasping Xiao Dapang finally collapsed at my feet, those miners were nothing but smoking piles of ash and bone. A brilliant white light flashed over him. Oh my god, I leveled up again. I'm level 8, he gasped. I checked my own status. 40,000 out of 50,000 experience points to hit level 14. Just one more good push and I would hit level 15. The requirements were getting steeper, but the stat points gained after level 10 were completely worth the grind. Why did you only bring 10 of them, I asked, keeping my voice flat. Xiao Depang looked like he might actually cry. Boss, Grandpa, I nearly died for those 10. If you don't drag back at least 20 next time, don't bother coming back, I warned. After a 1-minute break, I herded him back into the pitch black. The cycle repeated. Deep underground, a level 8 human was screaming like an absolute madman. He dragged monster hordes behind him while fireballs painted the tunnels blood red. Another blinding flash. I finally hit level 15. 10 more inventory slots and 6 free attribute points. I breathed a massive sigh of relief. Grinding in a normal novice zone would have taken weeks. I am level 9, Xiao Dapang yelled. Manic excitement completely erased his fear. This is insane. He loved it. That raw rush of near death and rapid leveling up. Incredible, he didn't even wait for a push this time. He just took off into the depths. We had cleared over a kilometer of the main tunnel, flushing miners out from the side veins. Xiao Dapang did the dirty work of baiting them out, and I was the hammer that crushed them flat. We were a flawless team. I paused for a second, spotting another ore vein in the jagged wall and pried it loose, getting rich and powerful, one fiery explosion at a time. I waited for Xiao Dapang to lure the next batch back. Then, the silence shattered. A massive blast thundered from deep inside the mine tunnel. The whole cavern shuddered violently. The ground heaved right beneath my feet, showering choking dust and debris from the ceiling. My heart stopped. If Xiao Dapeng got caught in that blast, there would not be enough of him left to bury. I had been way too careless. I sprinted forward, closing 100 meters in mere seconds. Through the settling dust, a shadow stumbled in my direction. It was Xiao Dapeng. Covered in black soot, his face looked deathly pale like a man staring at his own ghost. Thank God he was alive. But he was not alone. A new kind of horror emerged behind him alongside the usual gnome miners. These things were shorter by half a head. Their bodies were shriveled and dry as dead wood. They clutched flint in one hand and bundles of black explosives in the other. I instantly cast my inspection skill. They were mine blasters. Level 18 Nightmare Enhanced. Their stats were completely lopsided. 70 strength, 50 agility, but a staggering 300 spirit. Their constitution sat at just 80. The prompt said they handled blasting operations in life. Even in death, that raw instinct to kill with explosives remained. That 300 spirit perfectly explained the terrifying power of the blast I just heard. But their agility and health were lower than an average miner. Keep them at a distance, and they were just glass cannons. Once they crossed the 100-meter mark, I unleashed a barrage of bursting fireballs. 20 or 30 explosions later, they all collapsed into charred heaps. Notifications flooded my vision. We killed the miners for 512 experience each, and the blasters for 576. Those blasters, they plant mines. Xiao Dapeng panted, his chest heaving with terror. I almost stepped on one. A hair away, can you keep going? I asked him. Xiao Dapeng looked up, his bloodshot eyes filled with manic determination. Yes, he wasn't stupid. In under an hour, he had gained 2 whole levels and hit level 9. Following me was like riding a rocket. A life-changing opportunity like this never comes twice. Even if a 20-man elite squad of level 20s carried him, the experience split would be tiny. Besides, no sane party would ever touch a nightmare-level dungeon. Then I noticed something. I told him those blasters were actually pretty dumb. As long as you dodge their planted charges, they can never touch you. He nodded. My inspection completely confirmed it. They laid mines and detonated them, but lacked any other actual combat skills. Without their black explosives, they were far weaker than the miners. We pushed forward while Xiao Dapeng pulled the next group. I walked over to the corpses. The miners dropped the usual red-striped iron ore, but using endless extraction on a mine blaster gave me a completely different result. I gained 2 spirit points and a piece of fused iron ore. It was smaller than the red-striped version, but glowed with a dark red light and felt incredibly warm, denser, and much stronger, an absolute staple material for crafting high-tier weapons. Its market value easily doubled what I had been collecting. Then a crisp chime echoed in my head, a critical hit on my extraction. I received a piece of second-tier iron ore and a brand-new skill detonation. It was a solid second-tier ability. I could condense fire elements at a specific location to plant a hidden explosive point. Triggering it mentally caused massive damage within a 50-meter radius. It cost 200 mana and had a 30-second cooldown. My eyes completely lit up. If this skill packed the same punch as the blast that just rocked the tunnel, it was vastly superior to my basic fireballs. It definitely required setup, sure, but that raw explosive power was undeniable. Meanwhile, back at the Professional Association Hall, student groups were starting to gather. Everyone wanted the fastest way to level up past the novice zone, and the hidden mine was their top choice. A 5-man team walked into the hall, pulling every eye in the room. All girls led by Lin Shuyao. Her white mage robes gave her an icy, untouchable vibe. Someone called out to her, "Did you hear?" A tiny girl named Shaolin ran right up to them. She said Wang Xiang was already inside. He brought his family guards and jumped straight into hard difficulty. Zhao Shi raised her eyebrows. Even with high-level backup, tackling a level 20 dungeon on hard was no joke. Swan quietly pointed out that he wanted the top rank. Let him. Lin Wei fired back. She was Lin Shuyao's older cousin, a seasoned university student. She was acting as their tank for the day. She told them they were just there for a steady clear, so ignore him. Lin Shuyao clearly did not care about Wang Xiang at all. She looked right at Shaolin and asked if she had seen a student named Yen. Suan shifted her gaze. She was looking for him too. She had this nagging feeling that Yen was actually me, even if nobody else bought it. Shaolin shook her head. She hadn't seen him, but another student squad went in earlier and caused an absolute scene. She claimed, asked who, heart racing. Xiao Dapeng and Lu Hao. Swan bit her lip. I was here. So what? Zhao Shi just sneered. The Xiao family had money to burn. They probably hired a bunch of level 20s to carry them through. A rich brat and a useless scavenger. What a joke. But that was the thing, Shaolin whispered. Wang Xiang announced that anyone helping Lu Hao was an enemy of the Wang family. The professionals Xiao Dapeng hired quit right on the spot. Nobody would take the job. That was just too much, Xiao, the priest muttered. So how did 2 level 6s enter a level 20 dungeon? Zhao Shi demanded answers. They went in alone, Xiaolin said. Just the two of them. Xiao shouted that it was suicide. Lin Shuyao frowned hard. Her dad had just saved me, and here I was throwing my life away all over again. She coldly declared that I wouldn't learn until I suffered a real disaster. But it got crazier, Xiaolin added, dropping her voice. They chose nightmare difficulty. The entire group went dead silent. Zhao Xiao and Lin Shuyao stood frozen. Were they totally insane? Zhao Shi finally blurted that out. After a long pause, Lin Shuyao asked how long we had been inside. Almost 2 hours. Lin Wei just shook her head in pure disgust. So this was the guy everyone kept talking about? The dual-class genius who was actually nothing but a scavenger and a level 1 mage. She let out a very cold laugh. She said once you leave high school, you realize common sense matters way more than talent. This Lu Hao was clearly just reckless and ignorant. Zhao Shi smirked and agreed with Sister Lin Wei. Trash belonged with trash. He and Xiao Depeng were basically perfect for each other. Suan stayed totally silent. She remembered the last time she saw me. She definitely hadn't seen a fool. She had felt a terrifying boiling energy radiating from my body back then. Now I stood in the dungeon shadows, waiting for Xiao Depeng to lure the next monster wave. I wasn't wasting any time. While I waited, I used my extraction skill on the scattered undead miner corpses and pried loose ores from the damp walls. I counted over 100 pieces of red pattern iron and molten ore, plus 20 chunks of blue frost copper. It was an absolute fortune. To a normal person, these raw materials were only worth about 50,000 yuan. But to me, they were a gold mine. With endless extraction, I could refine them into pure, high-grade ingots, jacking their value up tenfold. I was literally turning rocks into pure gold. We pushed deeper into the mine, trekking 3 kilometers through a winding tunnel until the path suddenly opened wide. We both froze. It was a massive underground quarry 300 meters wide, with a ceiling that vanished into the darkness 30 meters above. Abandoned mine carts and rotting wooden scaffolds were scattered everywhere. And right in the center, a massive sea of undead miners wandered aimlessly. Xiao Dapeng went completely pale. He knew the rumors about this specific spot. Startle one single miner, and the entire horde would wake up at once. It was the dungeon's deadliest zone. He asked how I could possibly handle this. His voice trembled as he whispered. I just frowned. Even with my infinite mana, hundreds of level 16 monsters swarming from every direction meant a certain death sentence. I scanned the quarry, my eyes finally landing on the exact narrow tunnel we had just exited. A plan quickly formed in my mind. I warned him his job was about to get a lot harder. He looked like he wanted to vomit, asking if I seriously wanted him to pull all of them. He practically gasped. I didn't even answer him. I just raised my hands and began compressing fire elements into a tiny, dense point of light. I dropped that glowing spark straight onto the tunnel floor, and it vanished deep into the dirt. It was a fire blast trap, a handy skill I had just picked up from the mine blasters we killed earlier. Xiao Dapeng stared at me in total shock. He realized that whatever I killed, I mastered. I spent the next 30 minutes burying 60 traps, spacing them 2 meters apart until they stretched 100 meters down the tunnel. While I worked, I made him keep digging for ore. He muttered something about how everyone always called lifestyle workers completely useless. And yet here I was, turning a nightmare-level dungeon into a highly profitable business trip. It was finally time I told him to move. Xiao Dapeng took a deep breath, his muscles stiff with sheer terror. He had to pull 1,000 monsters and kite them all the way back without taking a single hit. One wrong step and he'd be swallowed by the tide. I watched him disappear into the dark quarry. I didn't offer any pep talk. If you want to level up in this world, you pay the price in blood and sweat. 10 minutes later, the ground started vibrating. A low rumble quickly grew into a deafening roar of thousands of footsteps. Here they come. Xiao Dapeng burst into view at the end of the tunnel, sprinting like a total madman. His face was completely drained of color, and he didn't even have the breath left to scream. Behind him surged a literal wall of rotting flesh and rusted pickaxes. I narrowed my eyes, counting down the distance. 100 meters. 80 now, I whispered the command. Detonate. A massive chain reaction of ear-splitting explosions ripped right through the tunnel. The shockwave was so incredibly violent, it sent rocks flying like shrapnel and shook the very foundation of the mountain. Xiao Dapeng was caught right in the blast wave and sent flying. Good thing he dumped all his stats into agility. He twisted midair and landed hard right next to me. We both just stared down the tunnel, now a roaring furnace of thick fire and smoke. Absolutely terrifying power. I never expected a Tier 2 chain explosion to be quite this destructive. When the dust finally settled, the silence felt heavy. The wide tunnel was completely choked up with the charred remains of the horde. Hundreds of level 16 nightmare monsters wiped out in a flash. Xiao Dapeng looked at the brutal carnage, his voice shaking. He whispered that I killed them all. Every single last one. Bright beams of leveling light erupted all around us. one right after another. The warm glow washed over me twice, two solid level-ups. But beside me, Xiao Dapeng was practically glowing like the sun. Four distinct flashes of light hit him in rapid succession. He let out a piercing scream, voice cracking with pure disbelief. He just jumped 4 whole levels all at once. He turned to me, eyes wide with a sudden massive realization. He started babbling about the crazy rumors back at the novice trial grounds. Everyone there had been talking about some mysterious elite squad sweeping through the entire zone. They left 0 monsters for the other students. He told me he finally understood the truth. There was no elite team. Just me. I did it all completely alone. Now sitting at level 13, he was absolutely convinced I had just shattered the fastest leveling record in decades. He called me his personal lucky star and swore following me was the best decision he ever made. I ignored the praise and checked my own status panel. This huge harvest gave me nearly 200,000 experience points. I was now level 17, with 40,000 points toward the next rank. I gained 12 free attribute points and 20 new storage slots. It honestly felt incredible. Since walking into this dungeon, I had already jumped 3 full levels. Xiao Dapeng wandered toward the pile of charred corpses, eager to check for loot drops. My eyes narrowed. I sensed a sudden sharp shift in the air. I screamed his name, told him to watch his back, and immediately activated my haste skill. I shot forward like an arrow released from a bow, sprinting straight toward him. A massive shadow suddenly loomed out of the pitch darkness. A long, whip-like tail cut through the air with a deafening whistle, aiming straight for his head. No time to hesitate. I conjured a bursting fireball and hurled it hard. The explosion caught the shadow dead on, forcing it back several steps. The whip completely missed its mark, slamming into the ground right next to Xiao Dapeng's hand. Sharp stone fragments sprayed absolutely everywhere. Xiao Dapeng reacted fast, scrambling backward to create some distance. Even after that massive chain explosion, one monster had somehow survived. I reached the giant shadow right before it could fully recover. I didn't give it a single chance to swing that whip again. I threw a heavy punch, and the sheer impact sent the creature flying backward. While it hung helplessly in the air, I launched another bursting fireball. White-hot flames instantly erupted, completely consuming the creature's body. The massive frame finally hit the rock with a heavy thud and stopped moving. A clear system notification flashed right before my eyes. My squad had officially killed the Overseer leader boss. We gained over 2,000 extra experience points. Xiao Dapeng just stared at the carcass, jaw practically on the floor. We had actually taken down the boss of the entire mine.